Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to my podcast in which I take an individual horror film, doesn't matter what decade or subgenre, and me and my special guests sit down, talk about it, discuss it, critique, analyze, generally have a conversation about that individual film. Now, we are very proud that you are joining us this month because we are doing our special franchise theme month, of which today's film is part of one of those franchises. So if you have not listened to any of the other episodes that have to do with this franchise, please make sure to just listen to your heart's content, because there will be 5 of them in which we discuss the entire franchise. That is Phantasm. Now, this episode right here, we're going to talk about Phantasm, the original from 1979, directed by Don Coscarelli. And to join me on this conversation will be Mr. Thomas Tinarello, since we are both huge fans of this franchise. Thank you, Thomas, for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, Kevin. The podcast is about to begin.
Oh, Jesus. Now, you know what? It's so funny that we're doing this one. We tried to do this one last year, I believe, but we didn't get around to it. So I'm glad we're doing it this year, because this is one of those franchises that is both famous and infamous for many different reasons. And I hope that as we discuss each individual film, we will be able to get into all those type of details for the fans out there who may or may not have seen any of the films other than the first one. A lot of people have seen this first one and even the second one, but they haven't necessarily seen the sequels. But let's get started with the first film.
Yes, and I will just sometimes we show our hands in regards to how much we really like or dislike the first one. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go even further than that. I'm going to show my hand for all 5 of them. I'm going to confess right here and right now, guys, to all you ladies and gentlemen out there, Phantasm may not be my favorite horror movie of all time. That's Evil Dead 2. But the Evil Dead franchise is not my favorite franchise. Phantasm is my favorite franchise of all time.
Yeah.
Because it is the only horror franchise that I am aware of, and I know you're probably going to say, or people out there are probably chime in, well, what about the Insidious franchise? Or hey, what about the Conjuring franchise? Well, here's the thing. I haven't seen all of those all the way through, for one thing. Second of all, what I love about the Phantasm franchise, and there are many things, but I think there's the thing that sets it over the edge for me is I think it tickles my autistic brain in a way that the others don't, which is that unlike others, where you have like the same monster and different protagonists each movie, like the Friday the 13th franchise. I mean, some of them stay alive from movie to movie, but by the time you get to, Friday, by the time you get to Jason X, Corey Feldman is not still kicking around. But with this movie and the 4 sequels, it is the only franchise that I know of where it follows a single continuous story for over 5 movies. And it is starring the same, with the exception of Phantasm 2, the same 4 actors playing the same 4 characters who grow and evolve over the course of 40 years. That's what's amazing about it to me. And also, like, 5 kind of pulls everything together with this beautiful kind of like hopeful tone to it that we'll get into it when we get into part 5, but it's one of my favorites because of how these people fight against this onslaught of inevitable and unstoppable evil in a way that's just so moving to me and so breathtaking in its scope. And that's what makes Phantasm special to me. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like the Rocky franchise of the horror genre, because like with Rocky, again, same continuous story told over the course of 5, now 7 ish movies. It's pretty much the same cast. So actually, with Rocky, they're even more consistent because it literally is the same actors throughout. Yeah. But yeah, that's part of why I love this so much. It is a family that you get to know through 40 years, and it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only name one other franchise that would probably come closer to what you're trying to say, but I actually enjoy this franchise just as much as probably not as much, but probably close to as much as you do. I would not put this as my favorite, but it's up there in like the top five. Because for the longest time growing up, I probably saw the first four until Ravager came out a billion times, and I never got bored of this franchise. It doesn't matter how many people told me they didn't like the third and fourth one. I still loved all of them. It was, yeah, I was like, dude, I don't care what you say.
The
I
third
love
one's
this.
amazing. The third one's my favorite sequel, actually.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun talking about these films. Yeah, because I don't want to mention the franchise I was gonna say. I want to keep this one to Phantasm. We can discuss the other franchise afterwards if you remind me. But yes, you are right. But the thing is, this is like this because Don Coscarelli wrote and directed all of them, and except for Ravager, but he had a huge hand in that film because he also produced it. And he cherry picked a person to take over the reins for that film, and so it has his mark all over it, and it feels the closest to the nightmarish atmosphere that this first one does. That one feels the closest to that. The rest of them, like you said, the second one especially takes a more linear look at events, whereas Ravager does go back to kind of like the same type of imagery and tone as like this one, which is why I love Ravager too. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about Ravager yet. It hasn't garnered that cult status like this one has. A lot of people have talked about this
Dude, I don't know why, because Ravager takes. I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but like Ravager, you know what? I'm glad that we're getting ahead of ourselves here because this is just hyping you, the audience, up at
Yes.
home to freaking take the journey with us. And I implore you, ladies and gentlemen, take the journey with us because it's going to be a journey and it's going to have a satisfactory conclusion. Not quite like this movie, but you'll feel like you've gone somewhere spiritually by the end of our journey here. And I really feel like the fifth one, I think, takes the biggest swings.
It does.
It takes the hardest, the most deeply emotional, the most risky things. They do that in Phantasm 5. And yeah, Ravager is something is a I think it's a great end to the series. But for whatever reason, if you don't like it, you know what? You can see Phantasm 4 as the end because that was originally the intention. Coscarelli did kind of sort of want 4 to be the send off, but thank God he changed his mind.
Yeah, because I was like, dude, I was anticipating another one after part 4 for many years. I was like, when are you making a fifth one? I need to know more.
I need closure.
And I should have known better with a Phantasm film to get closure because every ending to every sequel makes me want to. Oh, shit, there's gonna be another one. Oh, crap! Let me new one come out now. Every one of these films made me feel that way as a kid when I was growing up, which is why I watched them so often. I was like, when does the new one come out? When does the new one come out? When does the new one coming out? So, but yeah,
I don't know. It's almost like I'm surprised no one's done this yet, but eventually it's probably going to happen. But I don't know. But I suspect that as long as Coscarelli is alive, this will not happen. But let's say the poor man kicks the bucket tomorrow. This could happen soon. But I feel like that structure really lends itself to streaming unintentionally. Like if they made a streaming series of Phantasm that was either a reboot or a sequel or God forbid a remake, it would still have that that structure where as soon as you're done with that first episode, you're like, oh crap, I gotta see the next one because it will end like that. And it feels like that. Like the moment I was done rewatching this, I was telling you off air, I just wanted to watch Phantasm 2 right after it.
yeah, yeah. And to be honest with you, with the success of Ash versus the Evil Dead, I believe that they could do it and do it really well.
They could.
Though they don't have Angus Scrimm to play the tall man anymore, I think you could get away with coming if you had that same character, the tall man, but have a different cast of characters and it takes parallel to these events in this film. I think it would work very well.
Yeah,
I'm not watch a remake of this as a show, but a parallel story. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't watch a remake of it. But if they did a thing where I mean, again, spoilers and getting way ahead of ourselves here, but let's just say that the multiverse figures into this. And I know some people are sick of the multiverse, but go ram it. This franchise was doing it way before Marvel was, so do not put that on them, guys. But like there is a more than a suggestion of the multiverse in this franchise. So there's no reason why there can't be an alternate reality that has some kind of bleed over into the main reality, and you could have like one of the characters from from the previous from the real reality come in and fight a new incarnation of the tall man. That's the only real problem is trying to find an actor who can embody that character at least as good as Angus Scrimm did, and but without copying Angus Scrimm.
Yeah.
That's going to be the hard part. So that's probably part of the real reason why they haven't gone forward with some kind of Phantasm revival. But that's what they'd call it.
Phantasm revival. Yeah. And it has to just be a church in there so they can play off the revival aspect. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, totally. So
you're gonna be at some type of mortuary somewhere, so you're gonna have a church.
Exactly. And they were leaning into that in the second movie too. So yeah, for sure. Well, let's start our journey with the first one. And I'll say my first exposure to this movie wasn't really this movie. My first exposure to this it had to be like 89 or 9. No, it had to be like 90. I must have been like 10 years old. And I saw a trailer for Phantasm 2 on TV. So it was a TV trailer. I don't think it was a video trailer. I think it was so it may have been like 1991 because it was clearly for a television showing, obviously very censored television showing of Phantasm 2. And I was mesmerized by just there's a quick cut of the chrome sphere with blades snapping out and the narrator saying the ball is back. And I had no idea what the heck was going on. And it looked amazing. But what's funny is, like, as a kid, I was either too afraid to ask what the heck Phantasm was, or I was just too distracted by other things. You know, maybe I was playing with my He-Man action figure somewhere, or maybe Star Wars was still, taking over my world, or Ninja Turtles, or what have you. But it left enough of an impression that I started incorporating Phantasm-like creatures and characters into my imaginative plays that I was doing with my cousin Dominic, who's actually he's a little younger than me. And when I was like 9 years old, he was a little younger. I even had like a superhero character that I made up called the Red Death, who had like a Phantasm sphere that was attached to his gauntlet on his left hand, and it had spinning blades on it. But he used it like a killer yo-yo. And if he let it go, it would and if it somehow got detached from his chain, it would go on a killing spree like this Phantasm ball does. So like I knew the flying killer chrome sphere and how iconic that thing was, and that's what left the initial impression on me. I didn't actually see this movie uncensored until years later when I finally bought the Blu-ray box, the Blu-ray set that I have with Angus Scrimm's Tall Man on it in red all around him. And I think I bought it at Walmart for a very good price. And that was the first time. And actually, that version is also the remastered edition that J.J. Abrams supervised. And God bless him, because it looks amazing. It looks better than it's ever looked.
Yeah. That's the version I rewatched when we were planning on doing the show. This episode right here is that version of it, because I actually seen that version at the theater when they did a limited screening of it, which made me go out and go buy it. And then of course Ravager also came out, so I did not see. I wish I had seen Ravager at the theater. They did a really limited release of that, but I did not get to see that one. But it was fun I did not see this one when it originally came out. Like you, I was not aware of the existence of this one until the second one came out. We talked a little bit about my experience originally. Is like I saw the poster for the second one at the video store. I was like, oh man, I gotta watch this movie. This movie looks cool as shit. But the video store I went to didn't have the first one. So I had to go to a different video store to get the first one, watch the first one, and then as soon as the second one came out, I had my parents go rent that shit. And I was in love with the franchise after that. My parents did not get the first one. I was still back in the time where I could put movies in and my parents would sometimes watch with me. And mostly my mom, because she loves horror movies. She did not get the movie. It's not the first time. There's lots of movies in our history that my mom did not get, and I thought was some of the greatest movies ever. And so, but Phantasm was one of those films that it was like she did not get it at all. I think she walked out early on. It was like no, it was not her jam at all. But for me, I just kept watching it because I saw myself as the kid in the movie. Mike, I like this is a kid. He's a cool ass kid. He's riding the freaking motorcycle in there. He's handling the shotgun. This kid was cool as shit to me when I was growing up. So yeah, I ended up.
Yeah, it's very Stranger Things if you look at it from a modern perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, where the kids are very well. In this case, just one kid. Where it's very kid centric, very boys' life, very very just like. People today would say this is nostalgic, but it's not meant to be because it was shot during the time.
Yeah.
It was just being very specific. Specificity is part of what makes a world that a film lives in be absorbing. It's not about like what your vibe is. It's not about what music you do. There's barely any, music from the time period in this movie at all. They couldn't afford it. All they could do is have two of their main characters sit down for a jam session.
Yeah, I love that. I don't care what anyone says. Them jamming right there is just a great little scene. It's like a character scene where these two best friends, because there's supposed to be three of them, are just jamming. When one of them walks there from work, it's like, you know what, buddy? Let's just sit here and jam for a while, sing a little song, because that's what we used to do. I love that.
Yeah, and it's a song that one of the guys actually wrote.
Yeah, it's a scene that would probably get cut.
Oh yeah, for sure. That would be like notes from the studio. Cut out the daggum scene where they just sit there and play guitar. Just stops the movie dead cold.
Yeah, I love that scene though. I was rewatching the movie and I was like, oh man, I forgot about it. It just makes me feel good when I'm rewatching the movie because of all the stuff that you would not be able to do in the film today. It's just
70s, man. It was a different time, man.
Shit, I was barely alive in the 70s, but watching these films, it just makes me wish I had experienced it just a little bit,
Yeah.
So.
If only you were as Mike's age then. I think A. Michael Brown is almost, I did the math. I think he's like 60 something now.
Yeah.
But
if he's 13 in the film, or his character is 13 in the film. So probably, yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny, he's the age that it just now hit me. He's the age my son is. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, but you're not gonna have him riding motorcycles or playing.
Heck no. No. And no, this kid rides
cars. Like
this kid. Oh gosh, don't even get me. We'll get to that, but oh boy. But like one of the very first things you see him do is ride a dirt bike through a cemetery, which is not only dangerous but insanely disrespectful. I don't know how he would have gotten away with that. I mean, it's not a real cemetery they were shooting in. This was just a park with borrowed tombstones that they borrowed from the movie studio next door. Costarelli on the commentary said that you don't really need anything really for a cemetery. All you need is a park and a couple of tombstones. That's all you need.
I know, I've done it myself. I've done it myself, and I still got some of the tombstones from a film shoot where I was like, man, these will come in handy on another film shoot.
If I had those, I would. I put them in storage. I would take them out and use them at some point. I was going to a park today for like a homeschool like field day thing, and I was looking at every bit of every bit of flat grass in the area. I'm thinking, wow, and just imagining a cemetery.
Oh, Thomas, you're so crazy. Oh, well, I don't even know where to start with this movie, to be honest with
I don't know either. It's really hard to even describe this movie to people who have not seen it or have zero idea of what it even is.
you. Well,
It's
yeah,
it's so bizarre. I think the only thing we can do is let's start with introducing them to the players of this
yeah, I
movie.
think we should do it because it's so integral to the entire franchise. Let's go by and do the characters. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before we do the characters, we mentioned Don Coscarelli.
Mhm.
Don Coscarelli, the writer, director, producer, the brain
Mhm.
that all of this comes from. It is all Don Coscarelli's unfiltered vision. Um, we can't say that about all of the movies in this franchise, but we can say it about this one. He was only 25 when he wrote and directed this movie, and he already had two movies under his belt. They're both comedies
Mhm.
about kids getting into trouble. One was called Kenny and Company. The other one was called Jim, the World's Greatest.
Mhm.
Um, and I think Kenny and Company had a Halloween sequence in it where the whole movie was actually building to this Halloween sequence. And it also starred A. Michael Brown, who plays Mike in this movie. He was in that movie as one of the kids. And there's Coscarelli says that there's a scene in Jim the World and Kenny and Company where there's like a jump scare. They're like somebody's in a Halloween mask and jump scares the audience. And Coscarelli was in the audience during that. And he saw people jump, and he thought, "Ooh, that's a good feeling. I want that again. I got to make a horror movie." So he got his friends together. He got Reggie Bannister, who also was in Jim the World's Greatest, I think.
Yes.
And yeah, and Reggie Bannister heard that and said, "Hey man, you should do this book. It's called Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Do that, man. It's the scariest thing I've ever read. It's got kids in it. You love that stuff." And he's like, "Yes, I do." So he read Something Wicked This Way Comes and immediately wanted to get the rights to it. But he was very depressed to find out that Disney had already purchased the rights to it.
Mhm.
And of course, they eventually made Something Wicked with Jonathan Pryce. But my goodness, can you imagine Don Coscarelli's Something Wicked This Way Comes with Angus Scrimm instead of Jonathan Pryce?
I'm surprised they have not remade that. Actually, now that you mentioned it. Oh,
It's so wild. Something Wicked This Way Comes also is kind of, and we already mentioned how Stranger Things this whole movie's going to seem to people, but Something Wicked was kind of the original sort of nostalgic horror, kid-centered supernatural thriller. Because I'm pretty sure Bradbury wrote it before Stephen King wrote it. So that's would be interesting how like that DNA kind of runs through this movie, even though it's pretty much like he wanted to make Something Wicked This Way Comes. He could not get the rights to it, so he made this instead.
and
And
just
he
a
and
side note, everyone, if you haven't figured it out yet, the reason why my company's called Something Wicked Entertainment is because of Something Wicked This Way Comes.
I was wondering about that.
I'm
I
a
did
huge
not
Ray,
know.
I'm a huge Ray Bradbury fan. And that was one of the most intricate films of my childhood when I was young. That book has stayed with me. And Ray
Mm.
Bradbury has stayed with me, and so I had to honor him. But yeah, that was a little side note, but it naturally came up in the conversation. I just wanted to add it. Keep going.
That's cool though. No, that's great. I didn't know that. And that's great. I'm a huge Bradbury fan as well. He's hands down my favorite science fiction author of all time. He stands head and shoulders above everybody else, even Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov's a bit overrated. He's actually not that great a writer. But anyway, I digress. He's but Disney got the rights. He couldn't do it, but he had this dream one night of running in a endless mausoleum hallway, being chased by a flying chrome sphere. And he woke up, sweaty from that dream. And he wrote that on a piece of paper, and that is where this movie came from. Don Coscarelli, after the success of this movie, he eventually became known for making a big fantasy epic that nobody wanted any part of, called The Beastmaster. And the rest is history with him.
Yeah.
So, what was that? Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, nothing. I wasn't about to say nothing, but I will say that Don Coscarelli's career has been defined mostly by this film franchise, and the offshoot that became Bubba Hotep.
Yeah.
Pretty much,
Mhm.
those are the things that define Coscarelli's entire
It's
career.
yeah, it's similar, I think, now that I think about it, to George Romero. And that George Romero, his first big hit obviously was Night of the Living Dead. And he tried to do other things. And he did many other great movies, but every time he needed money, he would go back and do another, Living Dead movie or Dead movie because he couldn't use the Living Dead in the title. Same thing with Don Coscarelli. Every now and then he would go back to the Phantasm, and that's how we have 5 of these movies. And in all 5 of them, we have our villain, our monster, our force of nature. That is Angus Scrimm as the tall man. Angus Scrimm, not his real name. Uh, his real name was like Rory Lawrence Guy.
I can't remember it.
That I'm sorry. What'd you say?
No, I said I can't remember anymore. Yeah, Angus Scrimm was just a stage name. So
Yeah, and he made that stage name kind of on accident too. He was trying to do some plays when he was at his university, and he didn't want people realizing it was him. So yeah. The
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so he picked out a name out of the ether, and that was it. I wonder if he was thinking of Boris Karloff in a weird way because it sounds Karloffish. It sounds almost like a name that was on a list of names where Boris Karloff was trying to figure out his stage name. Because I hate to tell you guys, Boris Karloff not his real name either. But like, so he probably had like, let's see, Byron Orloff, Crackby Orloff, Angus Scrimm, nah, Boris Karloff. That's a good idea. So, but yeah. So his real name is Lawrence Rory Guy, and he was actually a journalist, a very accomplished journalist and music writer. He wrote the liner notes on a lot of classical albums and some classic rock albums and stuff. Um, very, very like he kind of reminds me, like his presence kind of reminds me of like a cross between Christopher Lee and Boris Karloff.
Mm.
Like he has a charisma that's all his own. I can't really describe it. Maybe it's all on that eyebrow.
Could be. It's just unfortunate he was not able to stretch and do lots of more roles and nearly as many roles as like Christopher Lee did.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Next guy is Bill Thornberry. Bill was a staple of Coscarelli's troupe. He also starred in such immortal classics as Jim Wynorski's The Lost Empire, also with Angus Scrimm, oddly enough. He also did a movie called Sarah T. Portrait of a Teenage Alcoholic.
yeah,
I'll bet it's amazing. Next is
I have seen it. I do not remember it, to be honest with you.
Oh, you actually seen it? Okay, cool. You're the one. Then there's A. Michael Baldwin, who starred in Don Coscarelli's first 2 movies. We already mentioned. He also starred in such assailable classics as The Pickaxe Murders Part 3. Don't bother looking for Part 1 and 2 because they don't exist. He also was in Virtual Girl 2, Virtual Vegas. Do not look that movie up. It shouldn't exist. It's a softcore porn. And then we have, of course, Reggie Bannister, who, of course, has become kind of a sort of a genre staple. He is kind of the Bruce Campbell of this franchise. You gotta love Reggie. Yeah.
His career is like that. He showed up in so many horror films in his career. I don't know if he did much outside like Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell was able to do a lot more stuff as he got older, but
Yeah.
he's done his fair share of horror films.
Oh yes. Oh yes. He was in unassailable classics like Bloody Bible Camp, where he played a priest. He was also this movie also features just to give you an idea of the level of reverence and theological accuracy this movie has. It features Ron Jeremy as Jesus. And it also includes a couple of legit masterpieces like Wishmaster and Bubba Hotep, where he played the West Home administrator.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he did do quite a few other horror flicks. I don't think he did a lot of dramas or comedies beyond that. But not to bring the room down a little bit, but at the time of this recording, Reggie Bannister is actually in hospice care right now. So he's on his way out. So yeah, just pray for Reggie, and if you want to send him messages and well wishes, please do. His wife says he really, really loves going through them and seeing them. So yeah. Moving on. Uh, so yeah, that's everybody who is very notable in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where we get Phantasm. And let's start with the opening shot too, because that's another thing that I love. Because they said they showed this shot a lot as the movie goes on.
Mm-hmm.
The opening shot of Morningside Funeral Home, which is actually according according to Don Coscarelli, which I don't know why I'm tripping over that name because I'm Italian, he's Italian. We should be able to speak in the same language. We are paisan, but I don't know why I'm tripping over it. But anyway, Coscarelli said that it's actually a mansion that they were able to shoot in and around. Not really inside. The inside is in a different location altogether, and the mausoleum is a set that they built. But it's some kind of specific name to the mansion, and I do not remember the name of it. I wrote it down somewhere. I'm sure I'll find it on accident. But what I love about the shot is that, and I don't think this is something that you can get very often with movies that are not shot on film, but the blackest night
Mm-hmm.
enshrouds this house. It looks like it's literally suspended in an abyss of nothingness. You cannot see the stars, the trees, anything else. There's zero nothingness around Morningside Mortuary. And and there's also lots of other shots that are like that in the movie where it's very, very, it's all the night stuff looks so dreamy and weird, like everything is just hanging in a void.
Yes, yes.
And so they got that opening shot, which I love. And I feel like it's almost kind of like defines the movie with just one shot. Like, this is your main location. This is what it feels like. This is what it looks like. And this is what surrounds it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we go from that to seeing the tail end of this very tasteful but awkward sex scene in a cemetery. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's Tommy, who's the who makes up the third part of the triumvirate. He is with a really sexy young lady in the cemetery having sex. And after they're finished having sex, she brings out a very big knife and kills Tommy. And then we see this great little flash that she's not really she. She's this weird he that we don't know who it is just yet. Everyone who's seen the movie a billion times, like we have, will know that it's the tall man, and this is our first introduction of something strange and unusual because we don't know what the hell's going on here. We just see this tall man kill another guy after having sex with him, and which, when you say it out loud, is kind of weird that the tall man would go through this type of the tall man is like seeking out people alive just to kill them. And we all know why, because he needs more slaves for his
Do
nefarious.
we know why, though?
Well,
I don't think so.
I think he just needs more bodies for his nefarious slaves, so he has to go out there and kill more people.
You're right. You're right. You're right. But at the same time, though, you would think there'd be enough people dying of just natural causes in this town that he would be able to. But I guess not. Maybe I think he just does it because he likes to do it.
Yeah, probably have the sex part. Yes.
Oh gosh, the more you say it, the more creepy it
It
sounds.
is.
But
I never thought of it was creepy until I just watched it for like the 100th time for the show, and I was like, you know what? This is really creepy. Why did he just kill the guy?
I know, right? And to clarify, folks, what you are seeing, what we have here is a shapeshifter. All right, the tall man is he's not a zombie.
No.
All right, he's not a, and as the title suggests, I mean, the word phantasm means basically ghost. It means a ghost, but he's not a ghost. He's flesh and blood, and actually, his blood looks like formaldehyde, basically gooey formaldehyde, thick formaldehyde. But he is corporeal. So he's what he is exactly is never explained, and that's fine. That's what's great about this movie, is that so much is never explained. But yet the plot is understandable. That's another thing. It's like, some people, some beginning writers and filmmakers think that a plot hole is just, oh, well, I meant for that to be mysterious. No, you just didn't know how to end your movie. So you just decided to obfuscate it with weird stuff for weird stuff's sake. That's not this movie. That's not what it does. But what you're seeing here is something that's very progressive for its time, which is this basically a weird, I don't know, I'm not even sure how to put it this way. I guess in a weird way, you have the tall man is because he's a shapeshifter, and what he shapeshifts into, I would say he's kind of like a pansexual being. Like, it's him doing this in the form of what we call the Lady in Lavender. And she's played by a lady named Kathy Lester, and she never really did anything else except this movie and another movie called with Rip Torn, called American Cowslip in the 2000s. That's all. I know nothing else about that movie. She does come back though in Phantasm 5, but she is basically a different form of the tall man whenever he wants to seduce young men to become his slaves. And I'm not even 100% certain why he decides to do it why is she wearing lavender? There's been so much speculation amongst fans of the Phantasm franchise as to the origin of the Lady in Lavender. I remember some guy speculating that the Lady in Lavender might be like the original tall man's wife, like when he was a living human. Maybe they were husband and wife, and then they became this. Maybe it was his daughter, or maybe the Lady in Lavender is a previous incarnation of the tall man from like a different universe or a different lifetime, and then he just pulls that body out whenever he needs to use it. You know, even in Phantasm 5, they don't really explain the origin of the Lady in Lavender. They explain a lot in Phantasm 5, but yeah, she is just this enigmatic, seductive presence that never speaks. Actually, I don't think she has a line.
Not for us, anyways. I'm sure she speaks to the characters when she's seducing them, but as an audience, we don't ever see her speak.
No, and that's part of what makes her this vampiric almost presence. Like, so that's what that is, and that's where we start with this movie. But if ladies and gentlemen, if you're put off by the abruptness and the awkwardness of this whole thing in the beginning, just give it a few more minutes. Give it a few more minutes. I promise you, it will get clearer ish as the movie goes along. Also, fun fact before we move on from this scene: the guy playing Tommy is not an actor. He is a musician who was working with Don Coscarelli on a previous movie, and he said, "Don, I tell you, I've always wanted to die in a horror movie. Can you have me die in a horror movie?" He's like, "Yes, man, I could do that for you. In fact, I could have this beautiful woman straddling you while you die." And that's what he did. Although it was not Kathy Lester who was straddling him. Kathy refused to open her top for this particular guy. In fact, she refused to even kiss him or anything. That was actually a double. Kathy Lester only wanted to do the more intimate love scene stuff with Bill Thornberry later on, because she knew Bill. She didn't know this mustachio guy from Adam, which, by the way, he does have an epic handlebar mustache. Very 70s. Very 70s.
Well, that's probably why she never did many movies after this. She probably wasn't an actress. So, like Michael Baldwin, you just didn't see them show up in movies outside of this franchise because they're all friends of Don Coscarelli. He's worked with them for years.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when she had the opportunity to work with Rip Torn, of course, she took it in American Cowslip, because who wouldn't? I would. I mean, I wouldn't kiss Rip Torn or straddle him, but yeah,
Jesus.
my wife would not allow that for sure. But anyway, I think Rip Torn's dead too, by the way. God rest him. But anyway, so Reggie and Jody, we see them for the first time at the funeral for Tommy. And I love how the composition is just Morningside in the daylight, Reggie on the right, Jody on the left. Boom. They meet, they talk. They're like, yeah, man, wow, Tommy killed himself. And Jody's like, I gotta go visit somebody in the mausoleum. And he's off. It's very awkward. But again, stick with it, folks. Stick with it, folks. I promise you it gets a little, yeah. Anyway.
Well,
But
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I think that Jody hasn't been to that mausoleum since his parents both died.
yes.
And so
Yes.
that's why he steps away, because now one of his best friends is dead. He steps away to go say to see his parents in the mausoleum, and so that when we see them again, or we see him go to their resting place in the mausoleum later in the film, it means a whole lot more, because at that point he even refuses to open the casket, even though he's broken into it. So
Yeah.
still
Yeah. That's
suffering from that.
yeah. Yeah. That's one thing that we find out later is that like he is an orphan now,
Mhm.
and he is basically has the responsibility of now taking care of his younger brother, who's only 13 years old, although he can drive a Hemi Cuda.
Yeah.
And this little redhead kid named Mike, played by A. Michael Baldwin. And honestly, like the way that he treats this poor kid, for the most part, is like part of the reason why I hate Jody. I freaking hate this irresponsible jerk. I really just, I mean, he gets better as the movie goes along. Like when he realizes the level of evil that's going on, he does step up a little bit, but like I don't know. I still don't like Jody. I just don't.
I never had a
She's
problem with Jodie. I always thought Jodie as the character. I see them both similar to this. I always saw Jodie as the one, because this scene that we're talking about with him leaving Reggie to go see the kind of like the where his parents are buried. I see him as the one who's still suffering from their death, whereas Mike has not. It's because he's so young. He's only 13. It still hasn't fully clicked with him, so he's attached to his brother at the hip.
oh,
But
I think I but you
it,
mentioned that. I think that shows that he is still suffering because he's so attached to Jody. That's part of the thing that makes this movie elevates it above a simple zombie movie, which is really what it is.
yeah,
Is that
go
is
ahead.
this poor kid who is has this like existential dread of being alone, and and the moment he hears, and this is why I hate Jody say offhandedly, like it's just a thing. I bet the kid. It's like it's as if the kid knows I'm going to leave him with his aunt. It's like the kid knows. Of course, he hasn't mentioned the aunt until later, but like he starts with just saying that he knows I'm going to leave. I'm like, seriously, dude, your parents died. Your brother. You are the closest thing he's going to have to a father, and you're just going to go off because you want to do your own thing. I mean, I know the '70s was a
Yeah,
different time, but I'm sorry. That's just wrong, man.
I no, I do see that as a product of the '70s, though. I see that as a product of the '70s, and this film is so steeped in that time period that I can overlook that. And even if I didn't see the movie till the '80s, because Phantasm 2 came
Yeah.
out in '88, so I would have saw it probably in '88 or '89, whenever that movie came on VHS. So that's when I would have seen the movie. Uh,
Yeah.
so if
Yeah, it was 89. And actually I also would probably have a better time with it if it weren't for that scene that they show twice from two different angles, where it's very much from Mike's point of view, and it's this almost heartbreaking, like dreamlike moment where he is chasing Jody.
Yeah.
He is running after him with all his might, and Jody's on a bicycle for reasons unknown.
Yes, I
And
still don't get that one either, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's just so I think it's just so we can see him better. But anyway, he's on a bicycle and running away, and Mike is just trying to catch him and he can't.
Yeah.
And he's helpless just seeing his brother leave him. And there's like no dang good reason for it, and it's just so bad. It's so heartbreaking. So that's part of the reason why I freaking hate Jody. Um but anyway, but he says something very interesting. He says like I don't know if it's him who says it or if it's Reggie who says it, but somebody at the funeral says, actually, it's probably Reggie, who says, "What a way to break up a trio."
Yeah, Reggie said that.
Yeah, but then of course, like as he said it, I realized that this whole franchise becomes about the breaking up of one trio and the forming of a new one
Yes.
that grows together over the course of 40 years.
Yes.
And it's Mike, Reggie, and Jody is the new trio.
Yeah.
And it's so great.
Yeah, yeah. I do kind of wonder when I was watching the third and fourth films of the franchise if Don Coscarelli had realized what he was doing, because there's such a huge jump in between 79 when this one is done, and 88 when the second one's done, and then 94 when the third one is done. If he realized that that's what this franchise was becoming, because I like that. That's a great aspect. Even the franchise I don't want to mention that's very similar to this only has one character that is maintained through the run of the entire franchise, who
Mm.
stuck with it for so long. It doesn't have three main characters that kind of stick with it, and you see them grow through it. I think that's one of the testaments of why, and probably you as well, but why I love this franchise so
Oh
much.
yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And another thing that makes this movie great, even by modern audiences standards, is that Don Coscarelli said that when he started making this and writing this, he said that he made the way he structures this movie, especially the way he structures the scares in this movie, is because that he seems like he's more of a science fiction guy. So when he started seeing horror movies of that time period, he said he was always disappointed in them because he would see the poster or the trailer and think, "Oh, this looks so scary," and then he'd watch it and there's like very little scares in it. He's like, "This doesn't seem very scary." I'm not sure what he was watching, but that's what he said. So he said, when I made a horror movie, I'm going to make sure that there's a scare every 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you clock it, that's pretty much it. There is a scare about every 10 minutes, which even to this day, I have seen screenwriting classes, where they tell you if you're writing a horror movie, you got to have some like scares, like pretty much every 10 pages. And this movie does that. Every jump scare, every crazy, weird setup and things, that pretty much all of them work. And it is 10 minutes, boom, 10 minutes, you got another one, boom.
But you
And
know
the
why they work? Is because they're not jump scares for the audience. They're scares for the people who are experiencing them. That's why they
Yes.
work. So yeah,
Yes.
that's why I don't like jump scares in general, because most of the time it's for the audience watching the movie and not for the people who are experiencing it. This film, it's the people experiencing it that experience these scares, and I think that's what makes it so goddamn effective. And all the films in the franchise effective. So
Oh yeah, and like the first one is a kind of a masterclass in how to do a good jump scare because it shows you it gears you up for it
mhm.
because Jody's gone into the mausoleum and then we cut to Mike snooping around looking at the funeral because he clearly, again, I'm telling you, he is traumatized by the death of his parents. We mentioned that he didn't go to that funeral because he couldn't deal with it. So this kid has this kind of forearm kind of shiver thing, this kind of he keeps death at a distance, but yet he's also attracted to it. He's looking at Tommy's funeral through binoculars. And eventually he gets into a thing where he's riding around on a dirt bike through the tombstones and he hears these weird noises and sees just a glimpse of something with a cloak hiding behind tombstones. And same kind of thing happens with Jody in the mausoleum. He hears weird sounds, but he doesn't know where they're coming from. And there's a little bit of a flick of something at the corner of his eye. There it is over there. What the heck is going on? And then he just kind of keeps walking and walking and walking. There's another one. What the heck? Following it. Nothing's there. Huh. Following it. And then bang! Hand on the shoulder. It's the tall man.
Yep.
And he says, the funeral is about to begin.
So forceful for that funeral director too.
Oh gosh, yeah. He is the tall man is almost have loved to have seen more scenes with the tall man interacting with the public. Like, how does this guy talk to other people? Like, does he does tall I mean, clearly he doesn't do the sermon because they show the pastor or the whatever, but like I can imagine. Can you imagine tall man checking people in, like just sitting there at his desk? doing the mundane stuff that a funeral director's supposed to do, while it's just like seething, grinding his molars, like he can't wait to start making dwarf zombies when everyone leaves.
Well, the point of fact is he doesn't wait too long for everyone to leave to grab Tommy's casket out of the ground and throw it back in the hearse. So
Oh yes, that's the first time that Mike suspects something is up with Morningside Funeral Home, when he sees the tall man grab this coffin and lift it up like it's his shopping, like it's a like it's an Amazon package.
yeah, yeah.
So this guy is incredibly strong, can shapeshift, and has a lot of other weird power sets that
Yeah,
we'll get into.
and those all set up the mystery aspect of the film because as you're watching it, you're wondering what the hell is this guy? What is going on here? And they are very slow to revealing some of that, so it keeps you
Oh
on
yeah.
watching it.
Oh yeah, and there's a long stretch where he doesn't show up.
Mhm.
He's just absent for a huge part of the movie, and then he comes back in a big way. And then before that, we see the dwarf zombies, which are not slow zombies. They are fast and they are vicious little monsters. And they look like little dwarfs, which actually they're not played by dwarf actors. They were played by kids, apparently, in little kids that they dressed up in little brownish robes. And before, I know what y'all Star Wars fans are thinking. You're thinking he ripped off the Jawas. And no, because Angus Scrimm claims on the commentary of this movie that they wrote this movie like way before Star Wars came out. So they weren't even aware of the Jawas until after they were done like editing this movie. And
Yeah,
by then it was too late.
didn't Star Wars come out in '78?
No, 77, but they had started pre-production on this movie back in 76.
Probably, yeah, because after his other two films, which were, I mean, these first three films all were small indie films, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he was writing this way before that. So sorry, George Lucas, he did not rip you off. But the mausoleum wall, I thought was funny that there's so many low budget kind of DIY do it yourself kind of fun things in this movie because they had no money. But whatever they had, it's on the screen. I love how they said that the mausoleum walls are just marble contact paper. That's all it is. It looks great though.
No, it looks great. I always love those shots because they're so brightly lit.
That's right.
Yeah, they are so brightly lit compared to the scenes at night. It's just a great contrast between the two. I love it. And when I watched the remastered version, I was like, dude, this movie still looks fucking amazing. After all these years, it probably looks better now than when I first saw the movie. Well,
Oh yeah.
it looks better than the first time I saw it because it was on VHS the first time I saw it.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, there's some people I don't understand this idea, but there's some people who are like, you need to watch it on VHS the way it was meant to be. And people are saying like you should only watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre on fuzzy, scratched up VHS. I'm like, I'm sorry, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not to get off on a tangent, but the cinematography in Texas Chainsaw Massacre is amazing. It's beautiful, it's bleak, it's tactile. The more information you see in Texas Chainsaw makes it better. It's the same thing in this movie. The more visual information you see, the more it draws you in, not less.
Well, and for everyone listening, you gotta keep in mind that the movies were originally shot in 35 millimeter or 16 millimeter, depending on the movie we're talking about.
That's right.
Not VHS quality to begin with, so we never saw the way the filmmakers intended the movie to be seen when we watched them on VHS. That is a dumbed down version of the film. So that was never going to be the original case, anyways.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah. And before we move on from the funeral, I do think there's an interesting line that is mentioned when I think Reggie mentioned this in like what's obviously ADR that that he's glad that Mike didn't show up and didn't see Tommy in the coffin the way he is, because he says that Mike apparently had nightmares about his parents dying for weeks. And to me, that's an important line, not just because it mentions the fear of death, it also mentions the theme of dreams.
Mhm.
This movie is all about dreaming and the subconscious, uh, in a way that I think kind of presages some of the work of David Lynch. Actually, I feel like there's a very intuitive and dream logic to this movie. I actually compare. I wrote down earlier that part of the reason why I love this one, especially, is because it feels almost like. Um, I don't think Coscarelli could not have seen. Um, he maybe I don't know. Maybe he did see some Fulci movies, but it feels like a Fulci movie at parts, except that Coscarelli directs actors much differently than Fulci did. But it feels that same way. It feels almost like it feels like The Beyond in a sense. It feels like City of the Living Dead, except that the actors kind of, for the most part, behave like real freaking human beings.
Well, also keep in mind that what you're talking about is also really important because characters in this film have nightmares. That I mean, especially Mike has nightmares throughout the entire film. Even Jody has a nightmare at one point in the film, you know. And that whole idea of nightmares is one of the recurring themes over the entire course of this franchise. Uh, it's
and
really
also and
go ahead.
also I'll mention here also, I'm sorry to interrupt, but also the the way Coscarelli shows the nightmares is very important, because there are times where you don't know you're watching a dream. You don't know where it begins or ends. There's times where we fade to black and then a weird sequence happens. Case in point, fade to black and then fade up. Oh, it's a different day. Mike is going to visit a psychic for
Yeah.
reasons. And I love that whole sequence because it is so weird. And it's also the first time we really hear the Phantasm theme come in really earnest. And Coscarelli said that he was going to use the theme, that beautiful piano theme, a lot less, but he decided to use it here because he wanted to kind of imply that he's entering another world.
Mm.
So I think, in a sense, that these two characters, the fortune teller and her daughter, are kind of sort of not real. Or in the very least, the version that Mike's meeting is probably not the real version of them. It's like a dream version. I mean, also they also totally straight up rip off Dune in this scene.
So
Be-
I needed to look up and see when Dune came out because I never read the book. And after listening to some of Don Coscarelli's fantasy and sci-fi reading, he probably may have been influenced by this, but I'm pretty sure Dune came out way after this, though. I can't be
no,
wrong.
no, I think the original Dune came out in the '60s.
No,
The book, the oh,
oh,
dude,
the
I will
book.
look it up.
No,
I will look it up.
I don't know when the book came out, but the movie that David Lynch, because you mentioned David Lynch, I was like, oh, David Lynch. Yeah, the book was years after this. It was 5 years.
That's what I was saying when he ripped off Dune. I'm not saying he ripped off the movie.
No,
David
you're
Lynch's
talking about
movie
the book.
came, yeah, the movie came out in '84. The book, I think, came out in 1967, if I'm not
Are you
mistaken.
saying that really is that? I didn't realize the book was that old, dude.
Oh yeah, I think I'm not about 65 actually.
Wow.
August 1965.
Did
So
not know.
clearly, he is clearly he is a huge sci-fi fan. In fact, I would also suggest that, and many others have as well, that the Chrome Sphere itself is, while it was obviously from his subconscious, I think it was put there originally by Mr. Philip K. Dick, because after I read this short story called Second Variety, which you sci-fi horror fans out there will know as the basis for a movie called Screamers with Peter Weller. If you read that short story, you see that there are, in fact, Chrome Sphere robots that go around and kill people. So I'm pretty sure that there's a bit of Second Variety and there's a bit of Frank Herbert in Dune in this movie, but he just straight up rips off the whole Gom Jabbar pain box thing for the it's straight up a rip off. He even straight up rips, he even has the line. He changes the word a little bit, but the famous line, I will not fear, fear is the mind killer. Same daggum thing, I will not fear, fear is the killer. And that's part of a theme that keeps going on in this movie is
In this
Mike,
movie, yes, most definitely.
yeah, that of Mike trying to face fear and walk past through it. I will let my fear pass through me. It's just a feeling. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a feeling. I will let the feeling pass through and do the thing that I have to do, which is very powerful, I think. But he just straight up stole it. He straight up stole it from Dune.
Nah, he was paying homage to Dune because he loves homage so much.
I'm not sure what the difference between homage and ripoff is these days.
Yeah, it blurs the line. It does blur the line sometimes. I think a ripoff would be like all the movies that Roger Corman did of Star Wars.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. But anyway, the reason why it's not totally unmotivated. He's going to see the psychic lady who apparently he's been in the habit of
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, he
Uh,
did have. I get the impression that he did that before after his parents died. I forget the line that he says, but or I think she says. I get the impression that he went to go see her see the the psychic not long after his parents were dead, and then he comes again, kind of like almost
yeah,
therapist now. Because first he's just telling them about his brother, and he knows that his brother's going to leave, and then it segues to that the
yeah.
rest of the conversation. So
It's funny too, because like the psychic, who by the way never actually speaks, it's the daughter who speaks for her
mm-hmm.
in a weird way. It's very strange. Although now that I think about it, I kind of sort of did the same thing in a in a script that I wrote for a podcast series called Night Chapel, where I had a fortune teller who claimed that her daughter was basically in a coma, but she used her daughter's coma body as a way to channel spirits. And in the similar way, you have the older lady, her grandmother, who's in a wheelchair, looking like a widow with little black 70s John Lennon glasses on, which is great. But like she says nothing. You think that she's dead or something until Mike leaves and she just laughs at him.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest mysteries of this particular movie is, why does she laugh? What is she thinking? Why are they both giggling like schoolgirls? Nobody ever knows. And there's so many theories.
Well, we don't, and it's really odd that the young girl there, which I can't remember her name, she ends up going to Morningside and being abducted there,
Oh yeah.
which is
Oh yeah,
so
that
such
could
an odd scene.
it confuses people too, because like there are people who apparently thought that that was the lady in lavender. I don't know why they would confuse her with that, but apparently, according to Coscarelli, people have come to him and say like, why did we show the lady in lavender go to the Morningside and then go to the door where you see the portal room and scream? Like, no, that's clearly not her. Like,
Yeah,
anyway, you were saying.
yeah, we don't know why she goes there. I mean, she does that. Her character does not seem like the character that would take what Mike says and then go investigating that shit. That was just seemed that's probably the oddest thing for me. I could have done without that shot there. They could have just like not put that shot in, but it doesn't ruin the movie for me because later on in the film, Reggie says that he saves Sally and Susie and a couple of other girls, and I just
Yeah,
that one of the other girls is her. I was like, okay,
yeah, yeah. I was gonna mention that, but yeah, you got ahead of me there. I was gonna mention that. That's like those girls that we never see get rescued are like the only survivors, kind of, sort of this whole franchise. Like,
yeah, yeah. You kind of wonder, what the tall man do with these girls?
what was he gonna do?
They're not dead. He doesn't kill them. I don't know.
He doesn't do experiments on them or anything. They're just there.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like what happens to some of the female characters in the later sequels. I just
Oh,
think,
that's true. Yeah, maybe he
yeah,
was gonna do.
yeah. This one just seems like Reggie just was able to save the girls and save them. It does give his character something really good that he accomplished.
Yeah. You're right, because otherwise he doesn't do very much in
He
this
doesn't do
movie.
very much. So yeah, it does give him something. But yeah, I always thought that was odd. I always liked that scene because they laugh at Mike after he leaves, and I was always, that's funny. I don't know why it's funny, but it's funny.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
creepy. Also, it's kind of creepy. Also, because the old lady does like she looks like she's dead the whole scene until that moment.
Yeah, it almost makes you think at that point that maybe somehow she's in cahoots with the tall man, and maybe that's why she sends her daughter to get abducted.
I have no, yeah, that's the, yeah, I would wait for Doc Coscarelli to a commentary where he explains why he made those choices. Uh,
I I was waiting that, but also I was waiting for like I have he did a wonderful little collection of short stories called Fiction, which with a PH.
yes, I
And
haven't read it yet. I haven't read it yet.
it's great. It's really great. Not all the stories are fantastic, but most of them are. But like basically it's there are a bunch of side characters and side stories within the Phantasm universe, and it's an anthology that Coscarelli wrote all of them. And Coscarelli is a great fiction writer too. This his prose is very elegant and his characterization is great. But guess what? Not a single dangum story is devoted to this fortune teller. We know zero about her other than like he literally devotes an entire short story to Toby, the guy that freaking the buddy of Jody who he meets after the funeral and looking at his car and stuff. That guy gets a whole story in the Phantasm in the fiction thing. We don't get nothing about a way more intriguing set of characters, which is the fortune teller and her daughter. I would love to read more about that, but no, nothing, not a whit. But speaking of weird, awkward editing, I do think there's an awkward bit of editing where the tall man notices Mike on the bike and pushes him off his bike with his mind? Question mark? It's not clear because it's like
It's
this.
not clear.
Yeah, it's like cut to Mike. He's on the bike. He looks. Tall man looks. There's a weird sound effect, and he just comes off the bike. And then on the next scene, it's awkward.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to see him do it, but I just haven't put much thought into why exactly that happens. It's just one of those scenes, kind of like watching the fortune teller, the just laugh at the end of that scene. It's just kind of like, oh, that's kind of fucking odd, but it keeps you on edge and questioning what you're watching, but it doesn't take anything away from me.
No, it doesn't. But what I think is funny is like how we're both saying that laugh is the oddest thing in that whole segment because it's not. To me, the oddest thing in that whole segment we should be talking more about is the fact that the little Gom Jabbar box that Mike pays her, like puts a fiver on, and then it just disappears.
Yeah.
Literally, it just disappears. And by the way, it's an amazing effect because clearly it's a crossfade effect, but Mike's body is moving a little bit. Like he's swaying a little bit when it's vanishing. So it's like it's not like when you do a crossfade effect normally, you can kind of see the seams of it. You can kind of see like the crossfade on like the edge of a person or an object in the scene. You don't see that in this. You don't see that at all. And he's moving. So it's like, wow, they really got lucky with that. That really looks convincing that it just disappears. So, yeah, watch it again. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. That's a great low budget effect that just turned out brilliantly.
There were a lot of great things like that happened in this film, which makes it stand the test of time. That's why.
Oh yeah, and like there's there's mistakes in the effects that actually work for his favor. Like, and of course I'm talking specifically about the iconic first real kill in this movie. Well, second real kill. Well, the first one with the ball. The first person. Actually, I think it's really the only person that the Chrome Spheres kill
in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is this random guy who apparently works for the tall man.
Yeah, I was about to say, who the heck is this guy?
We don't know who this guy is, but guess what? He's got a story in the fiction collection. You find out all about who he is. He's got a great backstory. I think it's called like something Morningside. I don't know, but like it's a great story. You find out what you find. Basically, he was the previous owner of Morningside Mortuary. And then when the tall man slowly came in and took over, he basically brainwashed him and turned him into one of his servants. But he's still basically human. But he's running around trying to grab Mike. Yeah, he's running around trying to grab Mike, and then all of a sudden, right there on his forehead. And the drill was supposed to come out and get him in the plate that was supposed to just spew blood, but the plate came off and twirled around the screw of the drill. And it was not supposed to do that, but it looked much grosser than it actually would have been normally. And that's probably part of the reason why this movie kept getting an X rating whenever they submitted it to the MPAA. Not
Okay.
only that, but because of when he dies, when he is corpse dead on the floor, this puddle of urine just comes out from between his legs.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Really?
You didn't notice that?
No,
Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah.
As many times I've seen the film, I probably have at one point, but I did not register when I just rewatched it. That did not register with me at all. It's
Oh
interesting.
yeah. It's so gross and upsetting and weird, and it's just like a nice little degree of realism that you don't normally see. I mean, when was the last time you saw somebody die in a horror movie and they peed themselves? I can't remember.
I definitely cannot remember.
Or shat themselves. I mean, when was the last time you saw that? Because that happens too, according to morticians.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of both of those before, but I cannot tell you if I've ever actually seen it in a movie, so to speak.
This is it. This is it. And yeah, that's part of the reason why they almost got an X rating. Because well, the NPAA was like, oh no. Oh
That
no.
just sounds so crazy to me right now.
Yes.
Oh wow, okay.
And we mentioned the little jam session that happened shortly after this upsetting incident.
No,
Um,
did we mention it for the audience, or were we talking about it before the recording? Though.
um, I don't know, but in case we didn't, there is like I think no, I think we did mention it earlier in here, but like there is like this improvisational jam session where they freaking just play guitar together, Reggie and Jody, and they're playing a song that Bill Thornberry apparently wrote.
Mm-hmm.
It's called "Sitting Here at Midnight," and it's not really very much to it, but it does set up the tuning fork.
Yes.
Reggie does use this tuning fork to tune his guitar, and and that does pay off at the end, kind of, sort of, not really, but kind of. It pays off a lot more in future Phantasm movies, actually, than it does in this movie. But yeah, it's there for a reason because it turns out that there's a lot of the tall man's technology that has to do with harmonic resonance and using vibrations to kind of move between the resonances of dimensions, which was still something that was very much on the cutting edge of science and science fiction at the time. And we're still talking about that stuff today when we're talking about extra dimensional extraterrestrials, which technically speaking, that is kind of what the tall man is.
Yeah. Yeah. As you watch this franchise, they go into more detail about all that. Whereas in this first film, it's kind of hinted at, and it lends you to some really weird visuals and some odd questions as you're watching the movie, and by the time you leave the movie, which is one of the great effects of this movie. These questions about what the tall man is, what he's doing, why he's doing it. Mike and Jody, they're just guessing at this shit as the movie's going on. They're just guessing at it. Mike especially. But for us as the audience, we've watched the sequels, we know that they're not always right.
No, they're not. I mean, they think about things the way actual human beings would. There's only one time I think where Mike they kind of cheat a little bit in the logic where it's ridiculous me even saying that regarding this movie. But anyway,
With the logic. Yes, I want to hear it though.
I know what I meant was, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but later on when they finally all converge on Morningside and Mike goes through the portal when he doesn't even know what it is, but he accidentally goes through the portal to the red dimension, which is what they call it throughout the rest of the franchise. It is another planet that looks like a hellscape of red and rocks and bunch of midget zombies. Sorry, dwarf zombies. I'm sorry, dwarf zombies just in a line like druids on parade, unloading these buckets full of dead bodies, and he comes out the other side seemingly enlightened, He's like, this it's his planet, and it's the reason why the dwarfs are so short, because the dead bodies go through and they get compressed. And he's like, how did you learn all of that from 2 seconds of being in an environment that you could not? They establish later it's super hot, that he's steaming when he comes out.
Mm-hmm.
He also can't breathe very well in it. Later on, they'll actually like show them almost suffocate when they go through the red dimension. I think in Phantasm 3. But yeah, it's like all of a sudden he gets this like revelation. It's like, I don't know, like some kind of weird information download that Mike gets.
I kind of look at that as, a young kid kind of making assessments about something he sees, but it not being correct. And we just go with it, just like Jody goes with that explanation because there's no other explanation for him to go with.
Yeah.
It's not until the later films that you start thinking about it and you realize that, yeah, Mike is not really right about a lot of stuff because he just doesn't know, and the tall man has to explain stuff. And then even later on, I think between the actually in the fourth film, I think, when I think the fourth film is, no, it's the third film. See, I'm getting them confused already. Where the sphere is in his skull, and he has to tell Reggie, well, you can't believe everything you see. It's like, well, that's kind of the theme of this whole fucking franchise here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually like that because for me as an audience member, and I know this people hate this sometimes. I don't want to be fucking talked down to when I'm watching the movie. I like the fact that this franchise is allowing me, giving me the information to think for myself, to come up with my own theory that may or may not be right, but it's not gonna ruin my enjoyment of the movie.
No.
Even when some of it is retconned in the third and fourth movie, it still doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the movie. It just makes me more entangled in this really fucked up mystery, and I want to know more about it. This film, especially because I everything's a fucking nightmare sequence. Even when you get to the very end, when Reggie's not dead, and he's saying, "Oh, your brother died in an accident."
Oh, that's a whole other thing we'll get into because I have theories about that as well. But
but
to me, like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say that's the whole nightmare sequence, the whole ideal of this whole film where you can't always believe what you're seeing is just something that makes it more intriguing. It makes it different than other horror films of the time, and even now. I think a lot of people have tried to attempt what Phantasm has done, but failed miserably. It is not something that anyone could just do and it be successful. I think.
In fact, now that you mentioned that, Kevin, I was going to bring this up earlier, but I forgot to. But you reminded me. This movie, the way that it treats dreams, is very eerily prescient to something that Wes Craven would be very good at.
Mm-hmm.
In the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which wouldn't come out for another 8 years.
I know.
This idea of making you forget you are watching a dream. Mm-hmm. And then get wrapped up in the reality of it, and then finding out, oh crap, the last 25 minutes of the movie were actually a dream, like he did with the end of their first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Don Cost really does that with this movie, but you have no idea he's actually doing that.
No.
Even though he literally shows you Mike go back to his house, lay in his bed in his leopard print blanket, and falls asleep, and then wakes up, quote unquote, in a cemetery, and just his bed in a cemetery, and the tall man standing over him.
Yeah, it's a great shot too, dude.
Yeah, and then 2 zombies, the only actual conventional zombies that we see in this whole first movie, come up from the grave and grab him. But the thing is that we do not see Mike wake up from that dream. It just goes right to the next scene. So we have no idea whether this is just a continuation of that. In fact, some people suggest that from that scene on, that whole movie is just a dream and didn't really happen.
Yeah.
So
I've read that. And I think I have to, when I rewatch the second movie, I think some of that happened also gets explained away as well as though it was mostly a dream, like the way the ending does. But I've always loved that about the movies because like it just makes me think more. Like I like the theory that you came up with. I read somewhere someone had also said the same similar thing, and I had to go back and rewatch. I was like, man, you know what? They could be fucking right there. Because normally in those type of sequences, you see the character wake up from the nightmare, but he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. Like I said, like we mentioned with the fortune teller thing, that's a dream, I think, where you don't see him fall asleep. And you don't, and here's a dream where you see him fall asleep and you don't see him wake up. So you have no idea what's going on. And even if you accept most of what goes on by face value, there's still the question, the idea, there's still this idea that I think is probably more developed in Phantasm 3 and 4. This idea that the tall man may or may not have the ability to manipulate reality.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe, just maybe, after he quote unquote kills Reggie, he only does that after they have successfully closed the gate. And it's Reggie who's closed the gate with his body, using it as a resonator, using it as his tuning fork.
Mm-hmm.
He closes the space gate, as they call it, and all his stockpile of dead bodies in those great little brown
Barrel things.
barrel things, which, yes, I've seen those barrel things in many other bad movies in the 80s and 90s. They totally recycled them for other movies.
They look great in this movie. They always did.
Yeah. But yeah, his whole operation is set back God knows how long he's been doing this for. And I'm sure he was pissed at that. But so he kills Reggie, and it seems like his whole thing just starts glowing and shimmering like it's on a transporter for Star Trek. And you think it's going to disappear. You never actually see it disappear, though.
Oh, you mean the house? Oh,
yeah,
yes. I was going to ask you about that too, because I guess I kind of overlooked it, or it was never a big detail to me till I watched it now for the podcast. I was like, I need to ask Thomas about that because I just realized that. I'm like, why the fuck does the whole mansion shimmer like that?
I think the reason is because the tall man is pissed and he realizes that if he doesn't do something, the whole thing's just going to get sucked into the red dimension. So I think that shimmer was basically him starting to manipulate reality. He was starting to manipulate it in such a way that he probably, I think the tall man has limitations though with that. I think he can't manipulate it too far from what it's already like, because if he could do that, then he could just like change everything about it. He could just change it to where he just beats, he could change it so that Mike never gets away from him. He could change it so that Reggie stays dead. But maybe he had to manipulate reality so much to the point where he could only choose a reality in which Reggie is alive now, because he's back alive, but yet Jody is gone.
Mm-hmm.
And Jody is dead. And yeah, he died in a car accident, man. Which makes me wonder, did he die in the CUDA? Clearly, because it's clearly not, because the Hemi CUDA is back in the next movie. And there's not a scratch on her.
He crashed the bicycle.
Oh, geez. You think that's okay? Yeah, I can buy that.
No, you can't buy that because that's, for me, that has always been kind of a dream sequence anyways. I never saw that as something that actually happened, the way it is filmed and the way it looks. And the fact that every time I see him riding a bicycle, it just seems really, really off for me. So I always thought of that it's just a dream. So
yeah, and it's a bike that's like way too small for him. It's like makes him look so huge. But yeah, and it's like he sees Jody's headstone, which is a headstone that looks good. This is not the Morningside Cemetery. This is a different cemetery. And it's a real cemetery because it's in the ground. It's not a headstone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he's looking at that, and he's looking at his parents. His parents are in the mausoleum, but Jody's outside for reasons.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't think about that till you just mentioned that. Why is he with the parents? Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost as if Paul Mann had no intention of turning Jody into a dwarf. He had bigger and better plans for him, as you see in the next couple of movies.
Yeah, in the third movie. I think it's third movie is where he's first reintroduced. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think that the either literally it was a dream from the time Mike lays his head down to the very end, maybe beyond even this movie. There's actually suggestions that maybe the first movie is at least half Mike's dream. The second movie is the psychic girl in the second movie's dream. It's primarily from her point of view. I think it's her dream.
She's a
It's
narrator, so
yeah, so that's her dream. Phantasm 2 is her dream, which probably explains why Mike looks a little different because they recast him. Uh, and then the third movie is mostly Reggie's dream. It goes back and forth. It's a shared dream between Reggie and Mike. And the fourth movie is definitely pretty much Mike's dream. And the fifth one is all Reggie. This was all Reggie's dream. And yeah, so it could be that. You could see this whole franchise is just this big inception, inception upon inception upon inception type thing.
As I rewatch the films as we go through each of them and we do our episodes for each of the movies, I'll keep that in mind because that's actually very interesting. I've never looked at the films in that regards, so it'll be interesting for me to revisit them with that in mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there's so much more we could talk about here, but like the lighting and the stuff, like I'm remembering like Reggie's. Oh, so Reggie is an ice cream man. We forgot to mention that's his job. And Reggie comes into this right after Mike runs from the tall man. Like I said, the tall man disappears for a long time, and the tall man's chasing after him, and he slams the tall man's fingers in a door, which is like, I've done that to my fingers. It's awful. Yeah. But his fingers come off, and he grabs one of those fingers and puts it in a little box to take it to his big brother to say, see, I'm telling you, this stuff is real. I have evidence. And I don't think there's not a lot of other movies that do this, where like somebody sees something weird and paranormal and brings literal hard evidence of it to another character, shows them, and they believe them 100%. He looks at it, yep, there's a finger in there, and the finger's wiggling in a puddle of yellow goo. Yep, I believe you. And he gives it back to him. And now Jody's all in trying to kill these monsters. He's all in with his shotgun. He's all in telling him how to load it, how to don't use warning shots. Warning shots are for pussies or something like that.
I know. See, that conversation is so realistic to me because it's right. It's what you should teach people. Be careful with it. Here's the safety. If you aim it at someone, plan to shoot them, and if you plan to shoot them, shoot to kill. That type of mentality is what's lost in movies nowadays. Like people don't shoot to kill in these movies, and that's the first thing you should be doing. Like other than the Scream franchise, which they make sure to shoot them in the head.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some people might be upset a little bit by how like cavalier they are with guns and talking to a 13-year-old boy about this, which by the way, this kid is so just like left childhood in the dust a long time ago. He is driving a car, a Hemi Cuda, a muscle car, all by himself. Well, he doesn't ride bicycles although he does have a dirt bike, but he totally just can drive this Cuda. He's 13 years
old. He fixes it too. He knows more about cars than his brother does.
Yes, he's a mechanic.
He's a mechanic. 13
is a 13-year-old mechanic, which another amazing thing about this franchise, that bit of information pays off in the fourth movie.
Yeah, pays off, yep.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's also a brilliant little scare sequence where Mike is underneath the car and one of the dwarfs comes by and torments him and almost crushes him in the car. It's a brilliant little piece right there. But yeah, there's lots of great little scare moments. And one of my favorites is this scare moment that is so cheesy and stupid, but it got me really hard. And then it made me like baffled, which is when they're going to Reggie's house at some point, and they're going in this, there hasn't been a good scare for a while, and they're going to Reggie Ice Cream Man's house, and all of a sudden this black woman pops up out of nowhere.
Yes! I don't know who she is or why she's there.
I didn't know either, and my mind was racing with possibilities. I thought to myself, who the heck is Estelle? I think that's her name. I thought, oh crap, is Estelle his mother? Well, wait, he's a white guy. What? Or maybe he was adopted? Is it his wife?
Well,
Be-
don't they show his wife briefly in the second movie when they blow
no,
up?
they don't.
They
They
don't show.
don't. They never show his wife and kids before they even get blown up off screen.
There's
You
not a
never
picture
see.
of them or anything.
No.
See, when I rewatch it, I'll have to. I could for some reason I keep thinking that there was. But then when I rewatched this, I saw her and I was like, "Well, is this his wife that gets blown up in the second movie?" That I just don't remember.
I mean, if it was, it would explain a few things about his taste in women in Phantasm 3.
Oh yeah.
But no, yeah, but no, it's not that. I did a little bit of digging, and in the commentary, Coscarelli says that woman is actually his housekeeper.
Oh, wow, that seems kind of weird for someone who's an ice cream man.
I know. How can he afford a housekeeper? I don't know. You know what? Maybe it's his wife. Maybe his wife can afford the housekeeper.
Well, yeah, because we don't see her. Because does he have a wife and a kid, or just a wife? I think it's just.
Well, we are only privy to the wife and kid in Phantasm 2.
Yeah, because there's been some years between the first and second film,
Yes,
so I can't, I haven't thought about when all that could have happened and how old the kid is or any of that because I haven't. When we rewatch the second one, I'll have a better clue. We'll talk about it again though.
Oh yeah, and we're pretty certain that the wife and kid exist because in Phantasm 5, the tall man tries to use bringing them back as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
So clearly they exist. That part's not a dream. What may be a dream is this whole ending, the whole climax. I mean, there's so many wild things that happen. I mean, they fight the spheres come back, and Jodie just shoots one, bam, and turns into red dust, which is pretty neat. Yeah, that's a great shot. Apparently, that was just done. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, the spheres themselves are such a great special effect because what they did was, I defy you, ladies and gentlemen, look for the strings. There are no strings. They did not. The only thing they used the string for was that one shot where it gets blown up by Jodie with a shotgun. That was basically a Christmas ornament on a string that gets exploded. But all the other times you see the sphere, all the other times you see it, what they did was they had a minor league baseball pitcher that they knew throw the sphere from one end of the set to the other, turn the camera upside down, and they filmed it in reverse. So you are seeing a sphere that is a ball that is getting thrown upside down and backwards so that it looks like it's elevating and not descending. And I'm like, this guy was a really good pitcher because I know I saw a shot of that sphere come around a corner. Like, yikes, that's pretty great.
Yeah, I remember reading or hearing about the fact that they were thrown. I didn't know about the camera being placed upside down, but that would make sense because I did know it was played backwards in reverse. I did not know it was upside down, but that would make sense so it doesn't look like it's descending. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's cool.
Exactly.
That's kind of cool.
Brilliant man, Don Coscarelli. He is brilliant.
It's only his third film, and they were independent movies when they were being made, so they had to think. They had to think about how they were going to achieve all this. And that's probably why the sphere only shows up twice in this movie. And we actually see it for the POV of the sphere when everything's red, I believe, right?
Yeah, solarized red.
Yeah. I wanted to say that the color red has, very similar to the red dimension that we see when they go through the portal. So
I thought it was red because because the sphere is filled with blood.
Of course you would think it. I don't think the sphere's filled with blood. Blood goes through it. It's filled with a bunch of freaking blades and everything else that comes out of it in the subsequent movies.
You're right. This is true. I mean, what's funny is the spheres, they do have a purpose. They're not just security. They are apparently part of the multifaceted operation of the tall man, which is to basically kill people, embalm them, and then take the corpses, stuff them in containers, throw the containers into the red dimension where they get squished and turn into dwarf. Forget it. I'm gonna call them zombie Jawas because that's what they are. Zombie Jawas. They call them zombie Jawas just so I can not say the M word while trying to say the D word. I'm gonna call them zombie Jawas. So zombie Jawas and then they become zombie Jawas and then come back to serve him, which is really weird when you factor in Phantasm 2 and 3, because in Phantasm 2 and 3, you do see proper zombies. You see average sized humans who are dead and in service of the tall man. So it makes me wonder, if he could just do that, then why doesn't he just skip? Why is all these extra steps? It's basically, he could just have regular zombies.
Well, we don't know what the ultimate goal is in the red dimension. Why he sends them to the red dimension? Why they need so many of them in the red dimension? He's just
Yeah.
a handful of them here in our dimension to help him out here. So I mean, like, that room is filled with tons of bodies, and they're all going. And we see the little the cavalcade of a whole bunch of them walking. Um, I don't think that any of them are coming back. They're going to whatever fucking destination they have inside that red dimension. So
Yeah, that's where the cosmic horror of this comes in.
yeah,
This is definitely taking a cue or two from Lovecraft, where you have an unknowable evil that has motivations and goals and desires that are completely beyond our comprehension. And even as the series progresses, you never really know what the heck the tall man's freaking deal is. You know he wants to take over the world, but you don't know why, and you don't know what exactly he wants with the world. It doesn't really gel together, and that's fine, because he's not human at all. He appears as a human, and you find out later it's a specific human with a specific backstory.
mm-hmm.
But beyond that, it's not that guy. He doesn't really. If anything, he's a Lovecraftian figure, but I think he's also a satanic archetype, in that he is the devil, but in a way that most people aren't used to seeing the devil. He is a tempter, but only in the guise of the Lady in Lavender. But I think he's more than just he's not a devil that makes bargains. He is a devil that tempts, but he's also a devil that tests. He puts Mike through tests, especially at the end when he goes through these different fear tests. He's a devil that tests. So in that sense, he's kind of like the tempter, the tester in the Gospels in the desert. But I think he's also kind of a satanic archetype in the kind of Orthodox Christian view of evil, as opposed to the Catholic view, which is where in Catholicism and like mainstream Protestantism, the representative of evil is the tempter, is sin. Sin is the thing that destroys the world. Sin is the thing that has to be dealt with. Human sin specifically. But in Orthodoxy, the evil that just trying to destroy the world, the thing that Jesus came to save us from, is death. Death is the thing that ruins the world. It is death that Jesus came to conquer. And that is, I think it's very interesting, that the evil from the red dimension decides to take on the form of a mortician, a symbol of death and decay, and trying to take on a form that is this being who represents, I think, the inevitability of that death and rot. Because in the end, let's face it, most of us, that's the last person who ever sees us. The last person who ever sees our bodies naked and exposed the way we came into this world is the mortician.
Mm-hmm.
And the mortician does horrible things to our bodies for the sake of preserving it and making it look all nice and nicer. And that's the form that evil takes in this movie. It takes death, and specifically the mortician of death. I'm not sure. I think I'm getting off track here for a second, but I think that's interesting that they take this view of evil that is a little bit different than what we're normally exposed to. And again, very, very ahead of its time, because you didn't see a lot of that in the 70s, especially in low-budget horror movies.
No. Oh well, we say low budget, but keep in mind that we didn't have the freaking the $50 million blockbusters back then.
Oh no, we didn't. No, we didn't. But I think I actually did the math at one point. I was trying to figure out how much was the budget of this movie, and I think allegedly this movie was something in the neighborhood of like $500,000 or
Yeah,
something in 1970s money.
yeah,
In today's money, it'd be about $2 million,
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
is disheartening a little bit to me.
Why you say that?
Because I'm like, oh crap! If I wanted to make Phantasm today or something like it, I
Oh,
would need about $2 million.
well, no, to be honest with you, we could get away with a lot more because you got to keep in mind that back then they were shooting on film, development, buying film, and all that kind of stuff, processing, all the stuff that you wouldn't deal with because you shoot it digitally. And you'd probably just like Coscarelli used like his friends to be in his movie, his actor friends. You would do the same thing. You use your great actor movie companions in the movie. Probably shoot on the weekends to keep the cost down to almost nothing, and come up
Yeah.
with a concept that had like something that's visually stunning, like the sphere, and the sphere only shows up in like two sequences. You limit how often you use it so that when you do use it, it looks fucking amazing. Coscarelli knew what he did. He hired Angus Scrimm to be the tall man. That's an imposing figure. He walks. We see it. That's what we don't see a whole. He doesn't really kill a bunch of people. He walks. He's it's a very well executed film, even for the 70s. And it's still effective today, in my opinion. Now, if you were to remake it today, like we discussed earlier, it would be a much different film, and I wouldn't want to see them remake this. I would want to see like a side story or something. I think these actors and these characters have been so embedded with, well, these characters have been embedded with these actors for so long that it'd be kind of hard to watch new actors do it, you know?
Yeah, there'd have to be some kind of like passing of the torch. You'd have to have, unfortunately, it looks like the only option would be to get a Michael Brown, because obviously, sadly, Reggie's not going to be around much
Or
longer. So,
Baldwin. A. Michael Brown, like A. Michael Baldwin.
sorry, you're right. A Michael Baldwin. So Michael Baldwin would have to be the guy. He'd have to reprise his role as Mike, and Mike would have to be there to kind of, you know, shepherd the new characters or give them whatever information he has about the new tall man or tall woman, even their new operations. Geez, you know what? I mean, if any character in all of sci-fi horror history deserves the pronouns they them, the tall man certainly deserves
I
it.
know. Also, I think the only person that I think like what they're currently doing with the Evil Dead franchise, they could do it to Phantasm and make it work really well. Um, who's to say that the tall man's the only one who was like that in that red dimension?
Mm.
You could have you could do a similar story and it be someone else. I could see that, but you need an actor who's imposed, has that presence, like trust me, who wouldn't want to see Idris Elba as the tall man? Come
You
on.
know who I would like to see as a tall man? I would love to see Javier Bardem as a version of the tall man. Yeah.
Yep. I actually am looking really forward to the Cape Fear that he's doing too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to do a phenomenal job, and I was not looking forward for a remake of that. But if you
Oh.
get him to do a remake of this, oh hell yeah,
Oh
or
yeah.
not a
Let's.
remake, a side story. Good
Yeah.
Lord,
Yeah.
we don't want a
Yeah.
remake, we want a side story.
Yeah. Yeah. I could tell you let's just say that I have firsthand knowledge that Javier Bardem is great in that show. Yeah. Although by the time this airs, it probably will have completed its run. It probably will have all episodes available on Apple TV. But
Probably,
yes, so watch that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he did No Country for Old Men. He could definitely pull this shit off, dude.
Oh
Definitely.
yeah, for sure. And also before we forget, ladies and gentlemen, you're not just getting, gory, bizarre, wild horror in this, and you get plenty of crazy weirdness. You're also getting action in this movie because Phantasm has always had an action streak in it. There is a car chase in this movie. There are gun battles in this movie. There's a whole great scene where they're chasing a hearse that's driving itself, apparently, and they shoot the tires, they shoot up the roof. It's pretty great.
Yeah, we should mention that because the car, the Cuda, is a vital and important character in this franchise, and it's all due to this first film. Like, I don't think that had people gravitated towards this car so much for this first film, it would have shown up in all the other films, kind of like Ash's car in the Evil Dead franchise.
Classic.
Yeah, classic. Or I was trying to think of the other movie. I had it on the tip of my tongue where the car is just as important as every other character. But it's fun that this car is its own character in this franchise. It's just great to see it always used in every one of the films. The Cuda. Oh, Back to the Future, like the DeLorean. Like if the Back to the Future had not been fucking popular, do you think anyone would remember what the fuck a DeLorean was?
Nope.
No,
Nobody would.
Yeah, they certainly would not have bothered to bring it back a few years ago. I don't know if they're still making the rebooted DeLorean or not, but yeah, they would have never bothered to reboot that shit. So
No. I think I heard in the commentary like Coscarelli mentioned that like the original Hemi Cuda is probably because the one that they have in this movie was custom made for the movie. Like I think they gave it a new paint job because like Hemi Cudas of that time I don't think were black. Not that shade of black. I think they came in different colors, but like they wanted this one black and they painted it. But like apparently the original has been stolen and they have no idea where it is.
oh,
Somebody's got it. Somebody out there. And if you are the person and you're listening to this, do yourself a favor and repent of your sinful ways. Give them back that car, man. Give them back. Cuda.
yeah, just go out there and get you a small little replica of it, like I have in my house, because I have a replica of the Cuda, the Phantasm Cuda, in my collection. So
Yeah,
I
that's
love
cool.
it. Yeah. I spent the fucking what 80 100 bucks for that fucking thing because it's Phantasm, dude. I love it. I love that fucking car, dude.
Yeah.
Uh,
So the other vehicle in this movie that's super important is Reggie's ice cream truck.
yes.
And it's apparently it's like a 1940s 50s like really sturdy truck, and that was part of a problem they had with production was that there's a part of the scene there's a scene where later on Mike has to uh is trying to go back and he's being babysat by these two other teenage girls and he finds Reggie's truck overturned on the side of the road, and they thought, and it's really overturned. They didn't go out, it's in a studio but they made it look like a road, but they were afraid, like, oh crap, we still got to use this truck. Can it still work after it's been turned? And sure enough, it could. So that's just great old, good old fashioned American engineering. But this truck also provides a question of whether and how can you hurt the tall man? Because there is this beautiful Main Street scene where Mike sees the tall man in broad daylight walking amongst normal people. He has no conversations with anybody, but he's there, walking in slow motion. And he walks right by Reggie's truck and open wide with this wafting cold air coming out of it. And he has a reaction, the tall man. But we're not sure what kind of reaction it is, whether it's agony or ecstasy. I think in this movie it's ambiguously on purpose because they never that much doesn't get paid off in this movie, but it gets paid off in Phantasm 3, I think, when they try to freeze him and they find out that, and it definitely pays off in 5.
It's the third one because that's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah. So they find out that actually the fact that because he's from the red dimension, which is really hot, he can't stand the cold. So apparently that's one way you could do something to him. But apparently his little Jawa zombies do not share his predilection, because the reason why the truck is on its side is because after they have that great car accident or car chase, they find that the car was not driving itself. The hearse was not driving itself. It was being driven by one of those zombie Jawas. And the zombie Jawa had a huge tree branch rammed into its skull. But there was enough of its skull left for them to recognize it's Tommy.
Yep.
That little zombie Jawa. That's Tommy. I don't know how you can recognize him, but yes, that's him. So they stick his zombie Jawa dead body in the in Reggie's truck, and Reggie's like, he's not gonna bleed all over my my ice cream, is he?
This his livelihood. Yeah, he's got to pay for that maid. So
I
uh,
guess.
it's a funny sequence, but then of course when we see it later, when the truck is overturned, all the ice creams all over the place, and you got the Jawa zombie Jawa blood all over it. The yellow blood. Yeah.
Yeah, sadly, this movie never gives you a straight answer as to how do you kill those little bastards, because you get them in the brain and it seems like they come back later. I guess they just regenerate or something. There's not that many movies where you have zombies who regenerate, so that's kind of neat.
No, I think yeah, I think that's one of the great elements of this film. They don't explain stuff like that. They literally explain that you have no idea how you can kill either the tall man or the dwarfs by the end of this film. I mean, it's a lose-lose situation. Or you're just stuck in an endless nightmare loop.
Yeah, I do like Thornberry's non-acting though in the phone booth scene just before this when he's calling Reggie and he's like, "Hey Reg, yeah, we got one out by 6 and such a street, or whatever." And there's a pause, and he says, "Bring your truck."
Yeah, he's calling the ice cream van a truck. So yeah, bring your truck. Yeah.
I just love that little bit. I don't know why. Partly it's because of the cinematography, because this phone booth looks like it is suspended in the void as well. It's so wild.
Yeah, but
I
that's
love it.
that's one of the reasons why we commented that we love the cinematography for this. A lot of those dark scenes are like everything seems to be in the all the background seems to be in a black void, which adds to, is this real? Is this a dreamscape? Is this a nightmare? What is this? It doesn't matter. It's still terrifying anyways, because the more we don't see, the more suspense and the more terrified we are as an audience.
Yeah, for sure. Like the inky blackness of some of those shots, like the ice cream truck is on its side, but there's this big old blast of white light behind it that's totally unmotivated. It is the only unmotivated light in the whole movie because, like Coscarelli said, like, he was very clear to try and have like a fireplace or a lamp or something that would motivate the light. But this is the only time where he's like, no, let's just have a spotlight behind Reggie's overturned truck because it looks cool. That's the only time he does that. Because if you come on the other side, it doesn't look the same when Mike's trying to open the flap to see what happened. It doesn't look the same. But yeah, but yeah, I love how when Reggie he's not dead, of course, they find not dead yet at least. But like when they formed a plan and Reggie's all gung ho with the plan to stop the tall man, he's like, we're gonna get there, we're gonna drive a stake right through that mother's heart. And Mike's like, yeah, but that's not gonna work. That guy is strong. And I love how, like, when he says stake through the heart, it's like, first of all, like, what vampire do you know when you cut off their fingers, it turns to a flying freaking mutant wasp?
Yeah, I still don't know, but that's fine because they bring that up again later in one of the other sequels. So I'm perfectly fine with all that. I think the fourth one is the one they bring it back up again. Uh,
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like even his appendages can shapeshift into different beings, which is wild.
yeah.
You think about it. But like, yeah, I like the idea that the vampire imagery, because in a way the tall man is, again, he's a satanic archetype, but he's kind of like a vampire in the sense that he's a shapeshifter and he regenerates his severed body parts. He I mean, he mostly comes out at night, but also he is a tempter, a temptress, like many vampires are.
Mhm.
And he does like drain your humanity from you, even though you have to be dead first. But like vampires drain your blood and then drain your humanity, turn you into a vampire. Um, but yeah, so the tall man does the same thing. He turns people into these undead throws. But like it is kind of weird that he decides to turn them into zombie Jawas. So I guess in a way, maybe he's just doing it for giggles. Like he doesn't have to turn them into zombie Jawas. He can just have them be regular zombies. I think he's just doing it as like a way to kind of like add insult to injury. Like, I'm gonna cut out your brain. I'm gonna fill your blood with formaldehyde. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna also turn you into a little guy with a little hood on, just cuz.
Hey, it has to do with whatever his ultimate goal in the red dimension is, what he needs them for in there, which I don't think we're ever given really any defined reason for that.
Yeah, no. I mean, I do think he gets off on the taking of humanity, like the different, like because when they're all little Jawas, they all look this little zombie Jawas. They all look the same. They're all about the same height. So it's almost like he's industrializing the human race and turning them all into the same kind of thing. So maybe there's something to that as well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, sort of a kind of a sci-fi sort of invasion of the body snatchers type thing where you're trying to take all of humanity out of a human. And then what do you get? You get an automaton.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot more stuff we could talk about. I mean, gosh, there's so many things that happen in this movie, so many cool places they go. We haven't even talked about the antique place where he goes and sees that photograph of the tall man, or should I say Jedediah Morningside, um, in a horse-drawn carriage from the 1800s, and the photograph comes to life Harry Potter style and looks at him.
Well, that's good you mentioned that, especially because I was going to forget about that one. Because stuff like that pops up in the fourth film. I don't, I especially when he's trying to figure out the origins of the tall man. So, and as you're listening to this, everyone, we're touching upon stuff that will pay off in the long run in sequels that Don Cascarelli never ever even imagined until later in his career.
Oh, he clearly did not. He did not, because as I was watching that scene and the commentary, Coscarelli is like, maybe in a future Phantasm we'll dive into, what the story behind that photograph was and everything. And he's like, oh wow, so this commentary is probably from the laser disc of this movie, because he hadn't even shot Phantasm 4 by the time this commentary was recorded. That's crazy.
Yep. But we want to mention them now because of the fact that a lot of this stuff pays off in later films. And we're obviously going to be talking about those in the later films when we get to them, obviously.
Obviously. Oh,
Well,
and what
they played such a huge factor in those films, especially when Coscarelli does part four and he reuses scenes from this film that he had not used in the final cut of this film. I mean, stuff like that is interesting because it's so rarely, if ever, really done by filmmakers. They're not recycling and reusing footage that they kept on the cutting room floor when they first when they first did the first film 30 plus years later when they're doing a sequel to it. It's just something we don't see. Uh, uh, I think this may be the only one I can think of that actually has done that. Actually,
No, yeah, no, it totally, absolutely. And it makes such a continuity between
yes,
all of the films.
yes,
Broken only by the fact that they changed actors once, and
yeah,
that's it. Just kind of gloss over that, and you got a whole nice little bit of franchise there.
yeah.
It's also an interesting thing, like I was going back to like the different cuts of this movie. Like when you first saw it, was there like, because there's a point where there's a blackout right after they like stop the uh where they find the portal, like in the white room.
Mm-hmm.
They find the portal, there's a blackout, and there's like nothing, just their voices.
Yeah.
And then someone lights a match and bam, there's a little freaking zombie jaw right in their face. And everyone scatters,
Mm-hmm.
but they leave Reggie behind. And Reggie does his thing where he closes the space gate with his hands. Um, there are versions of this movie where that whole segment is cut out because some early projectionists, when they were first dubbing it to VHS, didn't realize that like it went totally black, and they thought that that was a mistake, and they corrected the mistake.
Weird.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what Coscarelli says on the commentary. But yeah, it's I don't know if you may have seen that, but those, they might still be out there. Those VHSs of Phantasm that might have that whole little beat just cut out because they thought it was a just some unexposed film.
Well, I can't tell you about that because I only have the third and fourth one on VHS still. I still have those, along with my my Don Coscarelli director-less Beastmaster Part 2 and 3 on VHS. So I've not gotten rid of those VHSs yet. I still have Phantasm 3 and 4 on VHS. So I don't watch them obviously because I got Blu-rays of them, but it's one of those things where I just don't feel like getting rid of them. You know, if I could even, I used to be able to get rid of VHSs at like Goodwills and shit and Salvation Armies, but they don't even take that shit now. They just toss them. Yeah, they just
Yeah, man. It's like I went to a public library not so long ago, and like public libraries don't lock their DVDs anymore. Like, you know how they used to have little locks on the sides of the boxes? They're like, they don't do that anymore because now they don't even care if you steal them.
Yeah, we had this discussion before. I told you my libraries here in Gwinnett County don't even have DVDs or Blu-rays except for the kids section of content. They don't have them in Gwinnett County. They don't keep them. I guess
Crazy.
yeah, I mean, and most of the ones I get from there are more like educational ones. So they have a lot of educational programming for like young kids. So I use it for homeschooling.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I did that same thing. But yeah. So anyway, like Reggie closes the space gate
Yep.
because they leave him back in there, and it sucks all the canisters in. And he has his little encounter with the lady in lavender, creeps up from behind him, all creeper, creeper, and she's about to stab Jody in the back, and at that moment the space gate closes, and she's like, "Oh no, I gotta take care of this." And she doesn't say it, but yeah, like the Reggie comes out like, "I did it." And of course, Lady Lavender morphs into the tall man and stabs Reggie with that big old knife.
Yep.
And people forget that, like, Reggie dies in the first movie, but he's not dead forever.
Yeah, he dies, but yeah, it's very interesting because after that scene, when it goes black and Reggie's stuck there with the space gate, you have Mike and Jody are wandering the grounds at night, and the wind starts to pick up when Reggie closes the space gate, so to speak. He touches it, causing a chain reaction for the entire, not only inside but outside the
The
funeral.
mausoleum.
Yeah, which is cool because we know by now that things are starting to pick up even faster because it also, like you already mentioned, stops the Lady Lavender from killing Jody, and it's like that affects the tall man slash Lady in Lavender, and then of course Reggie, when he's outside, he's the victim of the Lady in Lavender slash the tall man.
And
Um,
what's funny is, apparently, according to Coscarelli, the lady and the tall man were supposed to be two distinct beings. They were not supposed to be the same person.
hmm.
And that when Angus Scrim didn't find out about that until he saw the movie. Like, because they edited it together afterwards. They decided in post, apparently, that they were the same person.
I can see that the way they're shot,
Yeah, he has no idea. He's like, I would have played it totally differently if I'd known that.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I like it better the way it is now, even though it makes the motivation a little confusing. I still like it. It puts the audience off, and it kind of sets the tone for the entire movie when that happens at the very beginning of the movie. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, and I love how like he's standing over Reggie. He's not really like triumphantly standing over, like he's won, or that he's even like made a small victory. It's like he's just super pissed. Like, ugh, I gotta do some reality altering. Ugh, I gotta rejigger all this stuff just to cover up for your mistake, you stupid ice cream man.
Well, what's interesting is right after this, we have to get to the point where Jody comes up with a plan to finally get rid of the tall man. Now, this is, it's required to, so to speak, in a lot of these movies in the genre that the heroes or the survivors figure out a way to get rid of the evil. And so, of course, Jody comes up with a plan that that drop them in a bottomless pit in a mine shaft that's not that far from where they are.
A mine shaft, which by the way we have not heard of at all this
Yeah.
entire movie until now.
No, I was listening to see if there was mention of it earlier. There's absolutely no mention of it. It just gets mentioned at the very end of the movie.
Yep. But yeah, you're right. And I think that whole climactic sequence is probably the most overtly dreamlike. I think of all of them, this is probably something that didn't quite happen. I think that because it has a very something a 13-year-old boy would come up with. Like, we're gonna get him down in a mine shaft. We're gonna plug it with some boulders. And like, I love how like when the tall man goes down the shaft and the boulders are coming by, you can clearly see that it's not dirt. It's like some brown scrim or something. It's vibrating to look like dirt. But yeah, and it's like, and that's also when the tall man goes to his house and chases him and says that first time that immortal line, boy,
Yeah.
and chases him and goes through these tests. First one being like the tombstones that come out of the ground.
Yep.
With nobody's name on it. We figure it's your tombstone and your brother.
Yeah.
He gets to go on from that, and then the hands come out of the ground to grab him, and then he sees the lady in lavender there. It's almost like a curtain call of all of the things that the tall man can do to try and scare you or tempt you. If he can't do any of those things, he'll try to get you any other way. And this is also the first time where tall man mentions that it's a game.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "You've played a good game, boy, but now you're mine. Now it's time to die." And that's when you realize that, yeah, this whole thing has been a game, and the game just gets bigger and bigger as the movies go along.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you get a sense that there's something special about this Mike that attracts the tall man, because it's a game to the tall man. It's a game that gets extended with each subsequent movie. I'm trying to remember if we ever privy to like the denouement of this game, even in the fifth movie. I have to rewatch the fifth. I was like, I don't think so.
Yeah, and they never really explain exactly what it is about Mike that attracts the tall man,
Yeah.
except maybe, I guess, the idea of like your adversary admiring you mess like there's like this Middle Eastern type thing where where like if you're this guy selling things in a bazaar and you admire the other guy who basically tricks you into selling your thing in your bazaar for a smaller amount of money. It's this Middle Eastern type thing where you admire trickery, because they're so smart.
Yeah.
So I think it's maybe like an adversarial type sort of admiration, like, haha, you you've managed to survive my tricks for so long. You've done so much more. And also, like, there is a kind of resilience, a mental resilience in this kid who is traumatized and feels so alone, and yet he has the cojones, the balls, if you will, to open his dad's casket.
Yes.
When Jody does not. He can face the reality of death where Jody cannot.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees, sure enough, his dad's not in that coffin. The tall man has turned him into a zombie Jawa. He may have already wrestled with what was left of his dad earlier in the movie, for all he knows. Yeah. But I think that's part of the real reason why Mike is such a formidable foe for the tall man.
Yes, and we add to that at this point in the franchise, he's still a 13-year-old kid, and he's a formidable opponent to the tall man. So, but I like the fact that right before they drop him in the mine shaft, the tall man is putting Mike through these tests. I didn't think of it as tests until just now when you called it a test. I'm like, that's an interesting way of putting it. Oh yeah, that's interesting, because that's exactly what it is. All the things that we've been talking about in this film with fear, dreams, and all of that come to a head right here, right before he before Mike jumps over the mine shaft because he knows where it is because he lives there, and allows the tall man to fall right into the mine shaft. And then of course somehow Jody's able to drop a bunch of boulders in there. I'm like, you're up on the hill. How the hell are you dropping all these fucking big ass boulders in this hill?
It's like a Wile E. Coyote
Yeah,
Roadrunner thing.
yeah, it's a little off-putting. I've never let it be off-putting because when I first saw the movie, I was a kid. And it's one of those movies where I just kind of always went with it. And even now, when I'm looking at the movie critically, it still didn't bother me because I've seen all the other subsequent movies and so many times, so it just doesn't bother me. I would love to know if it bothers anybody else. It doesn't bother me. I don't know if it. I get the impression it doesn't bother you as much.
No, it doesn't. I mean, like I said, I get the impression that this sequence is all in Mike's head. I don't think it really happened. I think this is very much a boy's life type thing. A boy who spends his time watching cartoons and reading Roger Zelazny's anthology of science fiction stories, which is what the book is. It's on his shelf.
Yeah, when I rewatch this movie again, I will definitely put that in perspective like that because I've never watched it thinking or trying to figure out where the dream ends or begins, where reality ends and the dream begins. I just never thought about that, even though people have told me that. I've read that before. I just never watched it myself, putting that in perspective. So it'll be interesting because I'm gonna try and do that with the subsequent films. So don't forget to ask me that when we talk about the second, third, fourth ones. Okay.
All right, I'll try. I'll try. All right. Well, then before we begin that journey, though, we got to talk about the ending of this movie,
Okay.
which I feel like I love all of them. I mean, as I rewatched it, it hit me hard in a fresh way. I don't know why, but like Reggie's, I mean, all these actors, not very experienced at all. And you can tell, but they get so much better as the films progress. And even as this film progresses, because I feel like Reggie's best performance is in this last bit where he's comforting Mike and trying to tell him that, all this stuff with the tall man, all that was just a dream, man. And he's sitting there by the fireplace, the roaring fireplace that apparently was so hot they had to put like tinfoil on the back of Michael Baldwin's back to keep him from getting burned, because he is very precariously close to that fire. But like I love how I love the way he says, I could never take Jody's place, but I'm sure as hell gonna try. And I'm like, because I've seen all the other movies, I'm like, yes, Reggie, you sure as hell do. And I love you for that, man.
Like we have already discussed, these three become like the triumvirate family that that each film just expands upon. And it's the start here. It started here, and because Jodie's not in the second movie, it becomes even more so with the Reggie and the Mike character. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And Reggie's like, hey man, let's hit the road. And he's like, we can go out just like cross country, man. He's like, and Mike's like, really? Yeah, pack your clothes right now. We'll leave at dawn, basically. And he just starts strumming his guitar.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, let's hit the road, man. That's exactly what happens. That's exactly what they do the entire franchise. The whole rest of it is just one big long road movie.
Yeah.
And then, oh crap, the mirror. He's going to get his stuff, and then all of a sudden he closes his closet, and bam, there's the tall man in the corner. And then he says, boy, and bam, some zombies come out of the mirror and drag him into the mirror. Credits.
Yeah, yeah, that's the end. But did you realize, or did you notice that the hands for whatever drags him through the mirror are like fucking huge? Like I always assumed in my brain that it was this tall man, but those hands are not the tall man. They are of huge arms and hands that are hairy. And so I was like, it's not the tall man, and it's not the fucking dwarves. What manner of creature or thing has the tall man got who can do what happens in there? Now I know in the second film they kind of replay that sequence at the very beginning. I believe it's the zombie Jawas that are dragging Mike through the house, but I'm not. I'm trying to remember that exactly. But in this movie, when they didn't realize they were going to do a second movie, I was like, damn, those are some big ass arms dragging you, pulling him through that fucking mirror. But I love that
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
leaves you as an audience like, what the fuck?
yeah. And it's just like, and like I said, as soon as it's done, I'm like, gotta watch the next one. Gotta watch the next one. I gotta let the credits roll and listen to that music again, but I gotta watch the next one
Yeah, I do
because it
love.
just it goes straight from this. I mean, like Phantasm 2, just give you a preview, guys. It literally picks up right where this movie left off. Even though it took them 7 years to make it, it still somehow picks up right where this left off.
Yeah, they could have done the second movie so differently from the very beginning, but they literally just started it off right at the end of this movie, and I like that. That's part of the joy of doing the continuity of these films was when they do that. So
Yeah, and speaking of weird, minor tangent, but like even the credits to this movie are weird because we get all the way to the MPAA symbol, which you think is the end of the credits, but nope, they relist the cast because, well, yeah, a great cast is worth mentioning twice, but like usually you do that before the MPAA symbol, so it's kind of weird. I don't think of any other movie that does that quite, but yeah, wild. But like, this is not the one they do this with, but like from Phantasm 2 onward, this franchise has this beautiful, funny little thing that happens at the end of every credits where, where they'll have like this movie is like a work of fiction, da 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 da. All characters living or dead are then maybe fictional, and then they have the kind of caption that says, "Do not copyright this. Do not copy this movie." Da da da. Anybody who that's what it says. Anybody who tries to make a copy of this will face prosecution. That's what it usually says. But in this one, it says, anyone who tries to copy this movie illegally will face the wrath of the tall man, which I think is hilarious. I think even some like some DVD versions of this movie will also have uh, something like that pasted on at the end, where it's like, come down to the tall man's mausoleum if you dare at www.phantasm.com. So, and then last but not least, I think, Kevin, we should have another little bit here because I
another
have
bit.
another bit, not a new bit, but an oldie but goodie here. I'm definitely not franchising this with my ideas for what I think a new Phantasm would be. I think we've already talked about that. But I will say this: I love the fact that even though we mentioned this possibility of a side story or a Netflix series or something like that, I kind of like the fact that this franchise has not been rebooted. It has not been remade. It exists as its own thing. And it's, I guess, for the foreseeable future, it will exist as its own thing. I mean, there's not that many horror franchises that have a big cult following that haven't been rebooted or remade.
Hmm.
This is the only one.
Jaws.
Well, Jaws is Jaws.
And we have talked about the so-called reboots or the fourth one is before there was a term for reboots. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, fine. Jaws,
Well,
Jaws, and Phantasm.
I mentioned that one because that's part of our franchise month, so people can go out
That's right.
there and watch
That
the entire Jaws franchise. So I mentioned that.
that's right. That's right. And hopefully, maybe you will have released that before this one.
Yes.
So that joke will make sense. Anyway, so anyway, without further ado, I've got some Schwarzenegger alternators here. It was very hard to figure out which part to figure out how Mr. Schwarzenegger could improve upon it. But I think the very end, the mirror scene, is where I would have Schwarzenegger perhaps at least step in temporarily for the great and for Angus Scrim,
Okay.
and have Schwarzenegger be the tall man and him deliver the last line of the movie, which is in this version, it's just boy, which is great the way he does it. But you know what? I think we could do better. I think we can add some more words to that boy. We can make it something very interesting. I got 4 of these,
Okay.
Kevin. So here we go. So Schwarzenegger alternators for the tall man in the mirror. Which, by the way, it's a side note here. Whenever I see that shot of the tall man, I don't know why. Maybe it's because the door goes like, yeah, it's closing. The mirror is closing. I don't know why, but for some reason I always, and also the lighting. I don't know why. To me it looks almost like the tall man is hanging on
Yes,
something.
it does. It looks like that to me too.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not crazy. I'm
No.
not crazy. It looks like he's been hung up by his outfit on a door. Like I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I mean, it's also weird because as Angus Scrimm pointed out in the commentary, he also has a different haircut. Like his hair is not long anymore. It's been cut, and nobody seemed to notice.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Schwarzenegger alternator. 4 of these. Number 1. Game over, boy. Now we play a new game called Who is Your Daddy and What Does He Do? For you kindergarten cop fans out there.
I know. Oh, God.
Number 2. Excuse me, I had to refresh my voice. Number 2. You got some explaining to do, boy. Seriously, you've got to explain this plot to me. I'm so pissed because I don't know what is going on here. Now, tell me. All right. So, number 3. You missed your call time, boy. Now we're going to replace you with another actor. Yeah, yeah. And finally, number 4. Drum roll, please. The funeral is about to begin. Yours.
I do have to ask you. These alternators almost, with the exception of the last one, almost were like meta. You went like a different type of alternators. It's fine. It's funny. I found these very humorous. I like it. So yeah.
I feel like number 4 they probably could have used as an alternate take, because I feel like the funeral is about to begin. I think they thought to themselves maybe that one was the catchphrase. They didn't realize that just saying boy would be the thing.
Yeah, I am ashamed to say that my son doesn't know what the hell I'm doing when I do that. I do that to my son a lot.
Oh, really?
He has no clue. I mentally know where I'm pulling it from, but my son does not know because he's never seen the film, never heard of the film, doesn't know shit. But that's why I say this film, it's like on the top, my top tier of franchises because it's influenced me because I've seen them so many times growing up. At first 4, I've seen so many times. So, but
Mm-mm.
still, I learn something new every time I watch it, as is testament to this conversation we've had. And hopefully, when we go through the second, third, fourth, and Ravager,
Fifth.
I will also see something new I hadn't seen before. I kind of take for granted the fact that I've seen the movie so often sometimes. So going back and rewatching them and with a more critical eye and your assistance and other people who will be joining our conversations will be a really fun exercise. So
Yes, I look forward to it, and all of you out there should be looking forward to it too,
yeah.
because I tell you, this franchise, unlike some other horror franchises, is not just the same stuff over and over again. They build on the lore of this movie, of this phenomenon. They give you more and more, and There are things in it that you will never forget. There are things that will haunt your dreams, and there are things that you will laugh at. There are things that you'll go, "What the heck? This is awesome." Um, and you will cry, and you will laugh, and you will cry, and you'll laugh a couple more times. Uh, it's a great franchise. That's my favorite. It is my favorite horror franchise of all time, and it's probably going to stay like that for a good long while.
Probably because it's hard, even for me. It's really hard to come up with a franchise nowadays that, well, for one, there will be no new franchises that ever stick with me like the ones that I watched in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s because I
Yeah,
just don't rewatch films like that anymore.
yeah, no,
I just don't. Like I grew up watching these films over and over and over again, and I had a lot of time to rewatch like the first two before the third one came out in '94,
Mhm.
and then yes, and then after that one, when the fourth one came out, I had a blast watching all four of them, waiting for the fifth one to come out. Had to wait a lot of years for that one, but still, the anticipation was always there, and I could go back and rewatch these 100 times and never get bored. Very few franchises I have done that for. Um,
And I also feel like this franchise doesn't overstay its welcome. There's 5 movies. There's not 7. There's not 10. There's not 13. And they don't, and like I said, they don't reboot midway through like the Halloween franchise. They seriously, they just have one continuous story
mhm.
that goes through its many ups and downs. And when it comes to a conclusion, that's pretty much it. And
For
that's what's great about it.
Yes. So, with that, I want to thank you, Thomas, for joining me on this excursion, this journey into the first Phantasm film. We have Phantasm 2, 3, 4, and 5 left, and that will be just as fun. From all of you out there, what we love to do is we love to rate the movies, although I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to get from you. 1 to 5, 1 being 4, 5 being amazing, but what we like to do is we like to attribute a object, quote, or saying to our rating. What is your rating, Thomas, and what is your object, quote, or saying that you're going to attribute to your rating?
Well, I hope I don't tick you off like I usually do on this, Kevin, because uh, I think, oh my gosh, there's so many marvelous and terrible
There's,
objects in this.
I'm hoping you don't, because there's so many great things in this movie to pull from.
Yeah, yeah, there are, yeah, but my goodness, I wish I could be more clever with them. I really do, but I didn't have a whole lot of time to make some of these notes because I got a busy life right now, Kevin, and I would definitely. I mean, and it's the first of the movies. I don't think I'll go to this object for any of the other ones.
Hmm.
Um, but because Phantasm won, and because it is the thing, the object that is the most iconic bit of this, and it hasn't been like nobody's really ripped it off. Like, I mean, there's other movies that have used chainsaws. There's other movies that have used like weird chains that fly everywhere. There's other movies that use, you know, claws like Freddy Krueger. There's things we think of are so iconic to that particular killer, but there's versions of it that have been done elsewhere. Nobody else does flying robot spears that fly through the air attached to your brain and drain the blood from your head out a little hole in the back. Nobody else does anything like that in this sphere, quote unquote, pun intended, of horror. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna give it 4.5 chrome spears of death out of 5. I only take the half off because, like we mentioned before and alluded to, there are some awkward cuts and awkward sequences here and there that a lot of it are attributed to budgetary and also the fact that Coscarelli was only doing his third movie and his first horror movie and a very low budget, and he doesn't quite land some of the things in there. Also, and we didn't mention, we kind of glossed over this, and we really shouldn't have, but there's there's a whole sequence in this that some modern viewers might find a little awkward and or upsetting. Uh, which is like, there's a whole sequence where Mike follows Jody to the cemetery after he picks up a random chick from the bar, and what is probably the quickest pickup line in the history of cinema. She literally sits down, they have 2 sentences together, and they are out.
Yeah.
But it turns out to be the lady in lavender. It's clearly her.
Yeah.
And we know that he's in mortal danger. But we know he's gonna have fun before he dies. But like Mike follows them as 13-year-old boy, follows his older brother and watches him with the lady. And he is enjoying it. He is like, wow. And then we got to Mike we cut to Jody looking at what we assume is the boobs of the lady in lavender. And he's like, wow. So it's so it is the epitome of cringe, to say the least. And it's not my favorite sequence in the movie. For a lot of that reasons. So that's the only like down. This only bit that kind of mars the movie for me a little bit. Is that whole bit and some of the more awkward cuts and stuff they make in it. But other than that, it's brilliant.
You're funny because I would have never picked up on that because I find it hilarious because he's Mike he listens to the little zombie Jawas in the woods and then he starts screaming and running through the woods and passes by Jody and the lady in lavender and that's how Jody's saved from being killed. I find
Yeah.
that hilarious every time I watch it. I didn't think
Yeah.
about it being cringeworthy. I just think of it as the scene where uh and there's a lot of sexuality in this movie but this and it's never really addressed with the Mike character so that being this may be the only scene in the entire franchise where it's actually addressed really because he doesn't treat the female character in the second movie like any type of sexual thing. It's more like they're like kindred spirits or something.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the psychic lady. Yeah.
So I get So I'm cringeworthy. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, it is. And granted, it does set up a kind of funny joke. I mean, yeah, he's running all like Scooby Doo basically
Yes.
through this whole thing, and then Jody puts up his head, and he's got her panties in his mouth, which probably also contributed to this movie almost getting an X rating.
Probably.
But yeah, it's a
Yeah,
little yeah.
yeah.
But
Well,
that is
yeah, you wouldn't have seen that. You wouldn't see a lot of that in a modern day version of it. They would have toned it down. I guarantee you they'd probably tone down the sexuality bits in it because whoever makes it now would probably think of it as not being important to the more nightmarish and horror aspects.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I give it 4.5 chrome spheres of death out of 5 as opposed to 5 chrome spheres.
So
What do you give it, Kevin?
So I'm going. I would have given it 5. After we talked about it, I go down to 4.5. I gave it 5 because I just, as much as I've seen the movie, I didn't see it critically anytime I've ever seen this movie before. I never noticed the little incidences like the so-called house cleaner character who just kind of shows up, or what does it really mean to have the psychic laughing at the end of that scene because it's a little off-putting. Stuff like that didn't bother me. But now you put it in my head, and now I'm thinking about it. So I've dropped my 5 down to a 4.5, and that's not a bad thing for it because it was a 5 before I started thinking about these critical things. And that's one of the things that we do here on the show is we want to think about these things because the film is still a brilliant film, but stuff like what you're saying, some of those little cringe moments now, some of those moments that may, just editing choices or something like that. You take those into consideration. I love the music for this movie, but I love the score more for the second one. It's like they elevated it, and they actually did because they had a bigger budget, so the score is elevated. I have the score for the second movie. I fucking love that fucking score.
Oh yeah, like the score for this movie sounds like a forgotten prog rock band from the 70s that was like something that your older brother probably listened to while he was smoking some bad weed and had a really bad trip to. That's what it sounds like. But in the second movie, they have like real orchestral flourishes to it that make it like much more interesting.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5. What am I gonna give it to? 4.5 of those weird fucking little monsters that tall man's fingers change into, because I know that something similar is gonna happen in some later sequels. So I'm gonna try to pick something different for each one of the movies as we watch them. I will not be able to use that for the subsequent film, but that sequence with that fucking finger when it becomes that little weird mutated fly wasp creature that goes into Mike's hair. It's terrifying yet funny because they try and kill it in the freaking garbage disposal and it doesn't fucking work out the first time, so they have to do it again. I just love it. There's just so many great moments I love in the movie. So
apparently that thing was supposed to come back at the end of the movie too. Like when he was having his whole like test Mike was going through. Apparently there was supposed to be a sequence where Mike was supposed to go through the bushes and come into a spider web, and that creature was supposed to be on the spider web. But they cut it. They cut it because the effects look really terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a good job because you see it for only a second when it flies out of the box, and then just a second when it's on Mike's head, and then after that it's covered up, and so it doesn't look like a shitty special effect. So I'm glad they did that. So
yeah, and if Coscarelli says it's a crappy special effect, it's a crappy special effect.
Yeah. So, with that, I want to thank you all for listening to us talk about Phantasm, which is part of our franchise month. So you can definitely check out the episodes on Phantasm 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the same day, because we were releasing them all on the same day. We do want to, I guess, warn you, if you listen to all these in the same day, your brain might get really screwed up. But hey, that's better for us. But for you guys, just take them leisurely over the next week or so. There's plenty of days, plenty of time. We want you to enjoy yourself. And if you haven't seen the movies before, please check them out. They are great.
Dr. Kevin recommends Phantasm in moderation, folks.
No, if I was my younger self, I would watch every one of these fucking movies in one day, and that's what I would do for that whole day, dude. I used to do it. The first 4, I used to watch them all in one day. I have not done that yet with post Ravager, but I should. That would be fun.
Yes, you would.
With that, please make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe. Do that thing you do with your favorite podcast and your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. And please don't forget to check out the other movies or other franchises that we are highlighting this month during our franchise month. And we had also did a lot of them last year as well. So you can check out our archives for the ones we did last year as well. From all of us here, Something Wicked Entertainment, have a pleasant day, and we will see you in the next mortuary.
Boy.
Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production. Written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers. Executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.